done yesterday. But first of all, I would like to remind you, first of all, I would like, and if I am standing up here and start singing, you guys are going to be quiet fast because, okay, so we're going to have respect, decorum, and we are going to listen to the speakers if we want to go home today, right? Today's the last day everybody wants to go home. So I'm going to remind you about the clickers. Don't forget to pick up your clicker when you come in the room. Leave your clicker when you leave the room. And you'll notice we added little wipes because I had comments on the grunginess of some of those clickers. So, all right. Now, before we even start with the clicker, we are going to do the Suzanne Rochon-Burnett Volunteer of the Year Award. And I would like to invite Madam President Fro to come up, and I would like for the room to be a little bit more quiet because I hear conversations at that end. So, Margaret?
Good morning, everybody. Bon matin. What a lovely evening last night. Did everyone have fun? I'm not sure what interesting things people got up to. I know Roger was heading someplace special after the assembly. But we had a really wonderful dinner last night to celebrate our self-government agreement signing and to acknowledge our leadership, both past President Tony Belcourt as well as President Gary Lipinski. And it was a really wonderful, wonderful evening and an opportunity to tell some stories and just to acknowledge all the work that's gone into getting us to where we are today. Work by our former leaders, work by all of those PCMNOs and councils and advisory councils and captains of the hunt that have got us to the point where we are today. So I want to also acknowledge that we had staff and volunteers yesterday over at the site for the cultural programming, putting on some really great programs for our citizens and our kids and friends that wanted to come and learn more about who we are as Métis people. And I think about people like Elsa Patra and that whole team of staff and community volunteers that I know I saw some of the pictures and it looked like a lot of fun. I was very sad not to have had another fiddle lesson. My repertoire so far is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I had a niece recently inform me that, Auntie, that is also the song of Baba Black Sheep. So apparently I know 2 songs on the fiddle. But no, it was a wonderful afternoon for those that were able to go, and it was unfortunate that we were working straight through to get our AGA business done, but that is the reason that we're here, primarily. So I thought yesterday was great. We got through a remarkable amount of business, which is great, and I just wanted to acknowledge the room for staying and for having that continued presence and willingness to debate and dialogue. So every year since 2006, the Suzanne Rochon-Burnett Volunteer of the Year Award has been presented to an MNO citizen who has made ongoing contributions to the Métis Nation and his or her own community. And this is work that's there are countless volunteer hours that are put in by citizens all around the province to really tell that story of who we are and to support our communities. And it's my absolute pleasure this morning to award this year's Suzanne Rochon-Burnett Volunteer of the Year Award. And with that, apparently there is an envelope. The envelope, please. A drum roll. Come on, give her a drum roll. Find the envelope. So a duck walks into a bar. Keep going. Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss. My father-in-law tells jokes all the time. I think one of my favorites was the 3-legged dog that walked into the bar and said, "I'm looking for the fellow that shot my pa." speaker wants to hear. Would you do some improv? In 2 minutes, a magical envelope will appear and we'll be able to present this award, which is fantastic. But I wanted to just get a little bit of feedback from the room about the use of these clickers and how you think they're working. Yeah? Yeah. We've had so much positive feedback about those clickers. And I think whether it's clickers that we're using in assemblies or finding ways to do things like telephone voting and other ways to just really increase the ability of our citizens to engage in our democracy. That is what we are working to do. And I will say that I think it's very much in part the clickers. I mean, it was our cooperation as a room, but I also want to acknowledge Chair Fance Picot and Vice Chair Sharon Cadeau for keeping us moving yesterday and actually getting through our business. And I've been reminded that this actually is a very good opportunity to thank our sponsors again. And I noticed yesterday as I was sitting here and looking around the room, I was seeing people from Hydro One and other sponsors, partners that were in the room with us and listening to our debate and witnessing our democracy, our Métis self-government in action. And so I want to acknowledge our platinum level sponsor, which is Nuclear Waste Management Organization. Thank you. And if you haven't already had an opportunity to go and check out their learning center, please do. It's down the hallway past the fish. And everyone will know what I mean by that. Please join me in acknowledging the support of our gold level sponsors, Baker Tilly Ottawa LLP, Hydro One, No History. Thank you for all of your support. Our silver level sponsors, Arnico Eagle Mines Limited, Detour Gold Corporation, Enbridge Incorporated, Greenstone Gold Mines, Mayors Norris and Penny, Newmount Gold Corporation, our MNO Region 3, which has been a long time, a forever sort of sponsor of our assemblies, and TD Canada Trust, our silver level sponsors. Our bronze level sponsors are Argonaut Gold, Bruce Power, BWX Technologies, Capcorp Financial, Glencore and Sudbury, Kirkland Lake Gold, North American Palladium, Resolute Forest Products, Treasury Metals, Shared Value Solutions, and the Royal Bank of Canada. And I also want to acknowledge the support of our friend of the MNO sponsors, Generation PGM, KGMH Mining, the Miller Group Construction and Engineering, and Rio Tinto Mining Company. So to all of those sponsors who have said, we want to support the MNO Annual General Assembly and the work of our government and all of our citizens gathering together, thank you so much for all your support. I now have an envelope. Now you can do the drum roll. The recipient of this year's Suzanne Rochon Burnett Volunteer of the Year Award is Mitch Case. Trying to find as many opportunities as we can to try and make Mitch cry. I think we've made him incredibly uncomfortable several times over the course of the last few days. So what's one more time, Mitch? You're going to be great. So I want to congratulate Mitch as the 29 recipient of the Suzanne Rochon Burnett Volunteer of the Year Award. I think it's very easy to say that Mitch is a very proud Métis youth and Métis artisan from the historic community of Sault Ste. Marie. As a citizen of the MNO, Mitch began volunteering with the organization at the age of 14 for the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. 2 years later, at the age of 18, he took on the role of youth representative, working as a liaison between his community and local school boards. Mitch was elected president of the Métis Nation of Ontario Youth Council in 2012. His leadership, skills, dedication to his community were recognized by the MNO early in his career, and he is currently the youth representative on the Provisional Council of the Métis Nation of Ontario. And I think as part of the testament to Mitch's leadership, he informed the Assembly yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago, that over the course of the last 11 years serving at the Métis Nation of Ontario Youth Council, they have been able to make every single decision from that council on the basis of consensus, and I think that's significant. Mitch is a graduate of the Chinois Kinamage Gamig and Algoma University, where he studied Anishinaabemowin and history. Currently, he is the Director of Student Services, Outreach and Resources at Chinois Kinamage Gamig, where his main area of focus is education and working to create a fully inclusive education system for Métis, First Nation, and Inuit students in Ontario schools. And I think his focus on education and how we can continue to raise the profile and awareness around who we are as Métis people, our communities, our language, our history, our culture, our traditions, I think is absolutely to be celebrated. Mitch is a role model and an inspiration who leads by example. He makes a point of getting to know everyone, and I think that in part explains the fact that everyone spontaneously rose when I announced his name, everywhere he goes. Mitch is humble and generous with his time and his volunteerism, which reflects his commitment, his passion, and his dedication to our nation. Mitch began volunteering more than 13 years ago. He's volunteered in local schools, colleges, and universities across the province where he's been invited to talk about Métis culture, history, traditions, rights, and contemporary issues. And not just across Ontario, but really truly across Canada, and fairly recently was invited to speak on behalf of Métis youth at the United Nations General Assembly. Mitch works in First Nation and Métis communities around Ontario, sharing his wealth of Métis spirituality and culture with everyone, including young citizens and students who are looking to connect with their heritage. He's been instrumental in bringing the youth perspective to the forefront in the MNO. And I think that has been very apparent. And when we see the strength, not just of Mitch, but of this entire youth council, this really incredible army of young people that are getting actively engaged through some of these initiatives that the Youth Council have initiated, things like Infinite Potentials, where they're gathering youth from across the province to talk about things that matter to young people. During his time at Algoma University, Mitch volunteered with the Aboriginal Student Association, dedicating his time to support Aboriginal students to ensure a bright and successful future for themselves and their community. Mitch also served as an advisor to the Ontario government on youth-related issues on Premier Wynn's Council for Youth Opportunities. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what Mitch's nominators said about him. Selflessly giving his time and effort to the Youth Council and countless other efforts within the MNO. A pillar of the movement of youth recognition and participation. Instrumental in bringing the youth perspective to the forefront of the MNO and nationally helping youth do the same in their respective provinces. A great leader. Regularly donates items he has beaded to raffle or sell at the MNO Youth Council vendor table at events. I'm happy to say I've purchased some of those. And that's just a bit of a reminder for everyone to check out the booths of the Women's Council, the Veterans Council, the Youth Council. As an advocate for Métis rights, the youth voice, veterans issues, women's issues, and anything else that he feels needs a strong and morally sound voice. A hardworking, dedicated young man who never hesitates to put the needs of our people and our nation before his own. I would like to acknowledge that in the spring of 2020, Mitch will officially retire from the MNO Youth Council after many years of active engagement. Thank you, Mitch, for that work. We are really making him very uncomfortable, which is quite wonderful. Mitch, we honor your work and the dedication you have given to the council. We honor the work and the dedication that you've given to your work at PCMNO. We honor your work and the dedication you have given to the historic Sault Ste. Marie community, to the broader educational community, youth community. We really honor the work and the dedication you have given to the entire Métis Nation of Ontario. Mitch is a worthy candidate of the Suzanne Rochan Burnett Volunteer of the Year Award, and I would like all of you to join me in congratulating him on this achievement. The MNO is very proud of all you have accomplished. So, Mitchell Case. He didn't give me heck calling him by his proper name. Thank you. Congratulations on being the recipient of the Suzanne Rochan Burnett Volunteer of the Year Award 2019 on behalf of the Métis Nation of Ontario. Have you ever missed the opportunity?
I made a joke the other day at the youth conference. I also have to say I am fighting and possibly losing the battle on the plague that the clickers are distributing, I think. And so I'm going to save a lot of my breath for later when we get back to work. But I made a joke the other day when the MNO AGA gave me that medallion that's about this big, that I'm a lot more. This is probably really twisted, and it tells you a lot about my psyche, maybe. But I'm a lot more comfortable being hollered at by David Chartrand than I am having people that I care about say nice things about me. And so this is all very uncomfortable. But really, I don't know. There's nothing to say except thank you, because if people hadn't stood up and created this thing, then I wouldn't have done anything. And so, I think about everyone who has received this award before, and I was lucky enough to have worked with a lot of them, and sadly, a lot of them aren't here anymore. And for me, that's what this is really all about, is working with all of you and working together as a nation, right? To move this thing forward and to advance even just a little bit every day for our people. And so I really don't know what to say except that we just give a little bit of our time and hope that it makes a difference, and hope that hope that it amounts to something that is worth something to the people that you care about. And I guess I care a lot about all of you. And that's all. Thank you. Go and buy things out at the...
Awesome. That is so nice. No, so nice to be able to witness that, because Mitch really deserved that. Now, come back to the clicker who are distributing the plague. You'll notice that we have, and you know what? That's a joke, but the clickers are saved the day. We have wipes, okay, by the clicker boxes so that you guys can take a wipe and wipe down your clicker. So, we will start the business of the agenda, and we will make sure everybody has their clicker and make sure that we have enough quorum in the room so that we can do business. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask you to take your clickers, wipe them, and then please, as of now, press number 1. Press number 1. I can see we already have quorum. This is neat. All right, we have quorum, so that means that we can do business. Now, Sharon is going to come up and talk about lost items, including the earrings that's not there. Oh, okay. Marlene Greenwood lost half a pair of earrings.
Okay, and we found, some people have turned in some items that have been found. So there's this beadwork, and this, if you recognize it, and this. The one thing, Mitch, we forgot to tell you is the current, I was the chair of the committee, and so I didn't get a vote, but it was a unanimous decision there too, for the, it was, but one of the things is the committee wanted to get some terms of reference because there's currently nothing there to define that, so congratulations, you're on a working group, so just to let you know. Thank you.
All right, all these items will be at this table here with Sharon. Okay, we're going to do one quick question, then we're going to move into non-special. Oh, there's two. I lost something. Somebody lost something else. I got to get my glasses changed, right? Blue. Blue We Aspire bag containing white moccasins. And one more kit that has a red binder and a beadwork. If somebody has found them, just bring them to that here. Just bring them to the table, and if somebody is lost, come and pick it up at that table. And I should say, if somebody is lost, things, pick it up at the table. If you're lost, well, send an SOS. Okay, so now we're going to do a question up there. We're going to do a practice question. All right. So the practice question is, are hamburgers better than hot dogs? So you will press 1 for yes. You will press 2 for no. And you will press 3 to abstain. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is open now. Vote now. 1, 2, 3. 4. 5. Voting is now closed, and the result is hamburgers are better than hot dogs. There you go. Let me tell you, if you're going to do a lettuce wrap something, it's easier to do a lettuce wrap hamburger than it is to do a lettuce wrap hot dog. All right. So this morning on your table, you all received a one-pager that looks like this here. Looks like that, which has, looks like this here, which has the titles of the non-special resolutions and motions. So it's entitled AGA 2019 Non-Special Business Resolution. They will also be posted on the board, and we will get them read. And if you don't have any, if people want some, we have more. Put your hand up. Okay? I'll invite, where is Hank, the chair for the Resolutions Committee, to come up in case we need answers to some of the questions. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the process, and then we'll move on to the resolutions. He's got to put his glasses on.
Good morning, everybody. Well, I've seen everything now. Mitch is, first time I've seen him with a loss for words, so I've seen everything now. I just want to clear something up as well. People are asking me if I can't read because I have Ray reading. My front tooth broke, and I've got what they call a flapper. It's new to me, and I talk funny because I'm not used to it yet, and if I take it out, I whistle. So that's why I've asked Ray to read them. It's not that I can't read it, just it makes it easier, and nobody will laugh at me. So anyway, the ordinary resolutions came in. Close was at 4 o'clock yesterday. We received 20 of them. The committee met last night with the help of legal. Out of the 20, 12 were compliant, and the other ones were not compliant for various reasons, either no signatures, they didn't have their name printed, or some of them were actually changed, either the bylaws or policy. So in doing that, I will turn it back over to you, Franz.
All right. Thank you. So we will go to ordinary resolution number 1, which should appear on the screen in 1 minute. Resolution seeking resources to support community council women's representatives to attend the AGA. The mover, is the mover in the room?
Yes, I'm in the room.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And your name is
June
June Smart. Seconder, is the seconder in the room? There you are, Colette Savoie. And we will have a floating mic also. So, and I didn't pronounce that very well, your last name, I know.
Sarovi.
Yeah.
I second.
All right, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded. We will ask our minute taker to come up and read it, please.
So this is non-special business resolution number 1. Whereas it is important that the Community Council women representatives attend the annual General Assembly, and whereas all Community Council women representatives provide a strong voice for the women in their community, therefore be it resolved that the 2019 AGA direct the PCMNO and administration to seek resources to support Community Council women's representatives to attend the AGA.
Hey, I lost the squeak. Yeah. So we have a motion that has been moved and seconded and has been read. We will have discussion. Mic number 2, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I think the motion is self-explanatory. We want to have all the women's reps on the councils be able to attend an AGA, even for the first time. At the first time, it's overwhelming to come to one and to start to see how the MNO actually works. So I think this is a great resolution, and I hope you consider it.
Any other discussion? Mic number 1. Mic number 1 is you, Caitlin. Try harder.
Hello. Oh, hello. Hi, it's Caitlin, post-secondary rep. I just wanted to support this motion. As someone who, I love my mom, but she's Irish. She doesn't know how to bead. So having more strong Métis women as role models for those of us who want to learn about being a Métis woman and what that means is such a great opportunity, and I really hope that you'll consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mic number 2.
Tricia Paradzi, Georgian Bay Métis Council. I am in support of this motion because of the fact that we know every council has a strong Métis woman sitting on their council in that position. And me being a strong Métis woman that sits on council as well, I look for guidance towards my woman's rep to know what's happening, to know what is coming from PCMNO down through the lines to the regular council, so that me being a woman, if she can't get out to everybody in our surrounding area, being from Georgian Bay, being a big area, I can help her to spread the word of what's going on. So yes, I support this motion.
Thank you. Mic number 1.
Liz Boucher, Kenora Métis Council. I will not be voting in support of this motion. My reasons are that we are again providing support for one demographic of our community. If there's resources to bring the significant number of youth that were here, there should be resources for every council member to attend, or we need to look at it just being, the president and the PCMNO. We need to really look at this as a whole and not be aligning with one demographic, because again, if we're paying for a women's rep, a youth rep, and a president, where is everybody else and the senator? Where is everybody else getting their extra representation? I really think that people need to consider that we cannot be identifying specifically to certain groups of people, that we need to look at a whole resolution that hopefully somebody will propose, or that funds would be provided to councils for them to choose who would best represent the citizens of their community, and to send who they feel is best able to do that, and not providing funding for specific demographics.
All right, thank you. Mic number 2. Question has been called, so I will recognize under mic number 2, I think Suzanne is the last one. And then Yvonne, I don't know if there's somebody behind you. Okay.
I'm short like you should see that.
I apologize, Yvonne. All right. Can I have mic number 2, please?
Cora Bunn, Region 6, Women's Representative. I vote in support.
Someone just snuck in there. She just
Okay.
went in. No, she wasn't.
Whoa. Hey. As far as I know, I still have the chair until noon. And then you guys can,
Unbelievable.
mic number 2.
I support this resolution. There are women who are women's representatives who feel isolated on their community council and don't feel that they have a lot of support because they might be the only woman on their council. I think it's really important that they are here to feel the sisterhood and so that they can share and learn with all the other women within the region and with the province. Thank you.
Thank you. Mic number 1.
I don't support this resolution because I pay for my women's rep. If they want to attend, I think councils should be the ones that supply the funds for them to attend. So I don't support this.
Thank you. Mic number 2.
Colleen Burnell, Grand River Métis Council. I would strongly suggest, or I strongly support this resolution in terms of supporting women who may not have the financial means or councils who may not have the funds to be able to send their women's reps and to be more inclusive. As was previously suggested, this isn't a means to exclude anyone else in the different groups, be it senators, be it youth reps. Perhaps that's just another resolution to put forward to include them as well. But women reps do represent women's issues in a different light, and I do strongly support that they attend the AGA to feel included, as well as have their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mic number 2.
That would be me.
Yeah,
Hi,
that would be you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Camacho. I'm a Region 2 Women's Rep. I was also a women's rep for my Greenstone area, and my council was very generous in helping me come to previous AGAs so that I could be here today. If I didn't have that support, I wouldn't be standing here today. The council didn't always have the money to send me, but when they did send me, and I appreciate that. But in order for us to learn the process and the way we operate, our women need to be here. They really, really do. And the councils support us, but they don't support us 100%. So if we come, we're bunking in with somebody else, and our resources are limited. So I really am for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's going to be the last one on mic 2. I apologize, Pat, but
that's okay. Suzanne Jackson, Region 9 MNO Women's Representative. I stand in support of this resolution, not for me, because I'm an MNOWC representative, so I'm blessed and honored to be able to be here. But the thing that I hear the most throughout the community council women's representatives is, why can't we be there? How do we get there? I have 2 women that I'm sharing my room with this year that drove down with me this year because they wanted to be here. And I will do anything to support my women. So to think that, to support the women of the Métis Nation of Ontario, to think that it's somehow giving somebody a free ride or an extra seat or an extra voice. Women will find a way, one way or another. Women will find a way. We're asking for a hand in helping our women be properly represented at the AGA of the Métis Nation of Ontario. And it's not all, we aren't all just single representatives on the MNOWC. We have women on the MNOWC who are also community council reps. So they're pulling dual positions. And they see and feel how hard it is, how taxing it is on community council women's representatives to find the means to get to these important meetings. So please vote yes for this resolution. Thank you.
thank you. I will now ask if we have consensus. If you want to break consensus, either raise your hand or use your clicker. And we already have people who are breaking consensus, so we are going to vote. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on the clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. And 2. And 3. And cat. And sign. Voting is now closed. The results are the motion is carried. All right, non-special business resolution number 2. All right, we're back to listening, right? We're back to listening. Resolution on youth programming. The mover, is the mover in the room?
I'm here.
Seconder?
I'm here.
And you are Jordan, right? All right. We have a motion that has been moved and seconded, and it will be read now.
Non-special business resolution number 2, resolution on youth programming. Whereas currently MNO youth programs are housed in the Education and Training Department, and whereas the MNO remains the only Métis government without a standalone youth department and a director of youth programming, therefore be it resolved that the PCMNO be directed to work with the MNOYC to explore the establishment of a standalone youth branch with the administrative structure and to create a director of youth initiatives within the director level of the administration.
All right, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded and has been read. I just want to note that Métis Nation of Ontario has branches because we believe that the branches are tied to the trunk, which is the citizens of the Métis Nation of Ontario. So, mic number 2.
Yeah, I remembered the branch part by the time I got to the bottom. I think the resolution generally speaks for itself, but it's just intended to help PCMNO and the administration look at ways of sort of reorganizing things to make things make a little bit more sense. We've seen this work. You know, we've talked for a long time about how the MNO has created sort of the most inclusive structure for young people in the homeland in terms of the leadership and political level, but there are other Métis governments that are far ahead of us in the way that their administration is organized to better deliver services and programs to young people. And so that's the intent of the resolution.
All right, mic number 1.
Hi, Caitlin McCrory, post-secondary rep. I just want to rise in support of this motion. Most of the people that I know that are involved with the youth programming right now are working 2 or 3 persons worth of work, whether that be in the youth council where people are working full-time, or whether that be in the education branch where they have responsibilities for youth program but also responsibilities for other education and training initiatives. So to have a dedicated staff member who can focus solely on youth programming, I think would be a huge asset, and it would really bring us in the lead in terms of youth programming, because we already have accomplished so much. So with someone who would have more time to devote to this, we can take over the world. Thank you.
Okay, question has been called, so on mic number 1, I will, Rick, look behind you, see if there's somebody. Rick. And mic number 2, I will recognize Edmund?
Ron Lepage.
Ron, jeez. Okay, there's nobody behind you, right? No short person behind you? Awesome. And question has been called. So I will now recognize mic number 2.
Ronald Paz from the Georgian Bay Métis Council. First of all, I'd like to make a point of order, is that if possible, can we increase the font? Those of us in the back of the room who have aging eyes have a hard time reading it, even with this, the font, even with it up on the screen. So if possible, is it enlarge the font?
Yes. That doesn't have to be a point of order, it's a request, so we're going to do it.
Okay. And I speak in favor of this motion. I'm going to be very brief. I speak in favor of this motion only because, as I mentioned yesterday and a couple of the other resolutions, it is very important that we foster our youth, that we help them to grow, and by having our youth department within the MNO, it'll serve that purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mic number 2. That's you. Oh, sorry. But we'll recognize mic number 2 because that's where I'm at.
Mark Mantha, Moon River. I'm in support of the resolution. This is arguably probably one of the best forms of tradition and culture succession planning.
Thank you. Mic number 1.
So I would ask the mover, my understanding is that resolutions aren't supposed to have financial implications, and if we're going to then be creating a new branch with a director, this would. So, and then I'm also stuck on this motion would just stand as in it and not move forward, because it also only says the word explore the establishment. So there's no action furthering, you know, once you explore it. So I would ask for a friendly amendment that, to the mover and seconder, that you consider wording after you explore it, and then upon funding, available funding in there somewhere as well. So you need an action after you explore it, and then you need upon available funding. So for your consideration.
I think
mover.
Yeah, I think Teresa just committed to making sure that this happens. I really like that that unconditional support from the regional councillor from Region 1. My understanding of the way that it's written makes sure that it isn't making a funding commitment because it directs the PCMNO to explore. But I am fine with the amendment to. I don't know, Teresa, what your suggestion is in terms of.
Words, can we have words to the friendly amendment, and then we'll get it reread?
Because my worry is that the friendly amendment will make it commit money, which then makes it invalid. But that's my only concern.
Teresa, suggested words, please.
Yeah, I'm just not too sure what the action bit should be, is because you're going to explore it, but then where's the action going to come out of that? Where's the decision going to be made? So I'm just not too sure if it leaves it open-ended.
Hopefully the PCMNO would then, take the action. Because the
okay,
assembly
so
can't.
we will.
Yeah, Jason, be helpful.
So we've done this before. Explore is you explore it, and then the action item would be what comes out of the exploration. So I don't necessarily think that you need to have a further action. The action is exploring it, and the potential after exploration, it may be funds aren't available, or it may be this is what we can do. So I think it's compliant, and it also includes the action item, which is exploration as opposed to commitment.
Okay. Thank you, Teresa,
Awesome.
for your support.
Thank you, Jason. And sorry about that one. I thought it was somebody else coming up, but I will look. So we're not doing the friendly amendment, so I will. Okay. We will ask if there is consensus. Is anyone abstaining or opposed? We have somebody that broke consensus, so we will move to a vote. I know you guys love to use the clickers. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Voting is closed, and the results are carried. Motion is carried. We will go to motion number 3, a non-special business resolution number 3, entitled, and whoever's going to move it, go to the mic closer, entitled Resolution on Federal Election 2019. The mover is?
In which case, I'll make the motion.
And the seconder is?
Hannah Basnet, I second this.
Thank you. And we will get it read. So I will ask the minute taker to read it.
Madam Chair, there's folks behind me who are still asking for it to be made bigger.
Yes, that's what we're talking
Okay.
about, where we emailed a bigger font size and they're going to put it in. So we're going to try that, but it's going to be, that's what we were talking about. It's going to be, it's got to be mailed from here to there, so it takes a little bit to walk to there and then get back on the screen. So it's got to go there before it comes back. Just like, you know, if you're flying from North Bay to Sudbury, you got to go to Toronto before you come back north. So it's the same thing. Same thing. Yes, please start reading. So. Okay, we're reading.
Okay, this is non-special business resolution number 3, resolution on federal election 2019. Whereas the upcoming federal election will involve issues of importance to the Métis Nation of Ontario, and whereas it is important that the 4 federal political parties are aware of the issues that affect Ontario Métis people in Ontario, and it is even more important for Métis citizens to know where the parties stand on issues which affect our nation and our interests. Therefore, be it resolved that the 2019 Annual General Assembly directs the President to write to the 4 federal political parties, Liberal, Conservative, NDP, and Green, in order to ask questions about issues of importance to the Métis Nation of Ontario. And be it further resolved that the President circulate the responses from the 4 parties to MNO citizens through MNO communications mechanisms.
All right, we'll open it up for discussion. Mic number 2.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think the resolution speaks for itself. I just, and this is not new. This is something that's already been done in previous elections, and I just think it's important that it continue.
All right, further discussion. Question has been called. Do we have consensus? Is anybody abstaining or objecting? Again, if you want to break consensus, raise your hand or use the clicker. Do we have consensus? Is anybody abstaining or objecting? Do we have consensus? Is anybody abstaining or objecting? Carry. Almost. Almost. Okay, we are going to go to a vote. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1 and 2 and 3 and cut and 5. Voting is now closed, and the results are 166. Motion is carried. All right, we're going to move to non-special business resolution number 4. All right, and we have the title, Resolution to Direct the President to Write to Elections. Do we have a mover?
Yeah, I'm here.
Mitch? And do we have a seconder?
Hannah Basnet.
Hannah? We will get it read.
So non-special business resolution number 4, resolution to direct the president to right to elections. Whereas, as an Indigenous nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario citizens have a right to use their Métis citizenship card as identification. And whereas, during the most recent provincial election, MNO citizens were able to use their MNO cards as valid means of identification. Therefore, be it resolved that the 2019 Annual General Assembly directs the President to write to Elections Canada in order to ensure that Métis Nation of Ontario citizenship cards will be accepted by elections officials in order to vote in the 2019 federal election. And be it further resolved that the President circulate the response from Elections Canada to MNO citizens through MNO communications mechanisms.
All right, we have a motion that's been moved, seconded, and read. Discussion, mic number 2.
I think it speaks for itself, Madam Chair.
All right, mic number 1.
I agree with the motion. I don't know if it would be as a follow-up or in the letter, Mitch, or if it needs to be in there. I would just be concerned that we still have the old the old photocopy, the laminated ones floating around. So I'm not too sure if it would be put in there that it's one of the new, the plastic cards, a version of the plastic cards and not the old laminated cards. So I'm not sure if it would be something that we would write in the letter itself or if it needs to be mentioned in the motion.
I think it can go in the letter.
Okay. So mic number 2.
Luke Thompson.
Question has been called, so I won't recognize anybody after you, Luke.
Okay.
No, after.
Okay, Luke Thompson. I just want to get it clarified. I believe this would only work for the new version of the cards because I believe the government only accepts ID cards that have an expiry date on it. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware that anybody who has the old card, I don't believe this would work as photo ID.
Okay, thank you. Mic number 2.
Mine was, or Trish Parody, Georgian Bay. Mine was pretty much in line with what Luke was saying. There's that separation, though. I am completely for this, but there's that separation with the new cards versus old cards again. So how would that work?
Yeah. All right, we're going to entertain Mitch answering that, and then we're going to ask if we have consensus.
Well, yeah, I appreciate the question, but I don't really think that has anything to do with the issue that we know exists, that we've spent some time yesterday arguing about, because it doesn't matter. Like if my old card counted as verified or not, it still wouldn't count as the ID because it didn't have an expiry date. Like that's just an administrative thing that federal government.
So we'll deal with that in the letter. Thank you very much.
But I don't think it works.
And do we have consensus? Is anybody abstaining or opposed? Do we have consensus? No, consensus has been broke. So we are going to move to a vote. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. And 2. And 3. And cut. And sign. Voting is closed. The motion is carried. All right. We will go to motion number 5. Motion number 5, resolution on the inclusion of unrecognized holders, short version. All right, do we have the mover in the room?
Present.
Do we have the seconder in the room?
I'm here. Vita West.
I know. Oh, you're at the mic. I was looking for you over there.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded. Can I have the motion read, please?
Non-special business resolution number 5. Resolution on the inclusion of unrecognized rights holders, short version. Whereas we need to protect the gains of recognized rights holders as well as track harvesters and give them control over their representation to the Canadian government. And whereas our gains have always come at our own initiative rather than through acceptance of the status quo interpretation, an interpretation which in the past asserted that we had no rights. And whereas the full extent of Métis rights is not completely known, and identification of the exact extent of these rights and to whom these rights apply is complex and will require additional research, court cases, and political choices by Métis. And whereas the protection and representation of existing recognized rights holders need not conflict with an openness to seeking recognition of more rights or rights for more communities. Next slide. And whereas it is clearly possible to develop a citizenship policy that simultaneously protects recognized rights holders and remains open to the recognition of additional rights and additional rights-bearing communities in the future. And whereas it is important that an approach be developed to citizenship which is not divisive, alienating, or weakening to the solidarity of the Métis Nation of Ontario. Therefore, be it resolved that we direct the MNO to develop a potential solution to registry and citizenship reform to be presented as a potential option to citizens at the 2020 Annual General Assembly, along with the necessary special resolutions to amend the bylaws as required to implement it, and that this policy be consistent with the following criteria. 1. A mechanism be put in place to ensure that recognized rights holders have no veto powers over any decision taken. I'm going to start that one again. 1. A mechanism be put in place to ensure that recognized right holders have veto powers over any decision taken with regard to negotiation or implementation affecting the existence, articulation, or exercise of their rights. Next slide. So number 1's a repeat. Ignore the first paragraph. 2. A mechanism be created whereby Indigenous communities which are not yet recognized as having Section 35 Métis rights can affiliate with the MNO as unrecognized rights-holding communities, regulate themselves within the MNO, and coordinate their legal strategies and litigation funds within the MNO while they build their cases for legal recognition. 3. Individuals of Métis ancestry be guaranteed participation and representation in MNO programs, even if they fall into another category for rights-related purposes or are otherwise unable to meet citizenship requirements, e.g. a child with both a Métis parent and a status Indian parent. 4. No registry files be destroyed except at the written request of the person who is the subject of the file.
Thank you. We have a motion that's been moved, seconded, and read, and I will invite Jason to come up and speak to it. No? Okay, I got a note that said, yeah. Yes, that's why I want you to clarify it. Okay, we'll recognize Mike 1, and then Jason will clarify a few things. Sorry, I thought you were doing that first.
Okay, a couple of points just in terms of the wording. In point 2, Indigenous is used in order to acknowledge that these other communities do have people of Indigenous descent without raising the potential conflict of people who don't believe that they're Métis automatically voting against this. But Métis are obviously Indigenous people, and these communities are likely Métis. The third point is just saying that as people who have Métis ancestry and Métis culture should be able to participate at gatherings and in our community, regardless of whether or not they can have citizenship. Hence the example with status Indians, but we're not talking about expanding citizenship or anything like that in this. I just want to also underline, this isn't about moving towards a pan-Aboriginal approach, like Margaret Froh alluded to at one point, so much as recognizing that there is uncertainty about the boundaries of the Métis Nation and uncertainty about rights. And one thing which I cannot understand is how people, whether they be ordinary citizens or lawyers, can't see that that if we prematurely exclude certain communities and certain groups of ancestors, we are also potentially prematurely jumping to the conclusion that the only Métis rights which exist are Paoli rights, and basically accepting the status quo. And if we'd accepted the status quo in the past, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have any recognized rights. And we need to have that initiative. We can't take one victory and then immediately say that defines us.
All right, thank you. We will entertain mic number 2. Well, did you forget something?
I just wanted to say, in this sort of situation we have here, I really honestly believe that we can put in safeguards which protect and give a special place with regards to rights, to recognize rights holders, and at the same time still continue to do research, continue to organize, continue to include people in our communities, and I think that we can do better than this. I think that as a people, we can do better than this. We've done better than it in the past, and the approach taken by people like Louis Riel in building organizations in the past did better than this.
All right. Thank you. Mic number 2.
Just to underline a couple of things.
And your name is?
Vida Westlake.
Get closer to the mic, please.
Okay, it's Vida Westlake. A couple of things. I'd like to reinforce the point that the Métis did not have recognized rights until recently, and there are a lot of people who are fighting for recognition for their historical communities and for their individual recognition. And I think that the MNO should be a community that supports those people in the work ahead to get recognition for rights and to get recognition for communities, and also as we as a group explore what the full basket of our rights are as Métis people. The second point I'd like to make is there's a difference between Métis rights and the right to participate, the rights related to the Paoli kinds of rights, legal rights with regard to harvesting, and the right to participate and be a member of a community and participate in the culture and share the history and stories. And I think that is sort of where we really need to remember that we are an inclusive community, and we do invite participation with people, from all people who have Métis ancestry. And the final point I think is important. As we move to negotiating a final agreement, we will be setting up organizations to deliver services. And if we have a service population that is larger, especially in some of the more northern isolated regions, you can have organizations delivering services to people, and that affects the funding available to those organizations and the economies of scale and the diversity of services that can be offered to these people. So I think that's important to keep in mind as well.
Thank you. Before I recognize the floor, somebody is sat, so I will recognize the floor mic, which is what?
Art Bennett.
Yes, Art.
Okay, Art
Speak,
Bennett.
and then we'll recognize our lawyer. Speak.
Okay, Art Bennett, North Channel Métis Council. I stand to speak against this motion. I've been around long enough, actually before the MNO even existed. I was not a citizen, but a member of OMA. And if we pass this resolution, we're opening the doors to go back to a pan-Aboriginal organization. We're Métis. It's the Métis Nation of Ontario, and I think we should remain that way.
Thank you. Jason?
So I do want to, all I want to bring people's attention to is in your kits, and some of these questions misinterpret the, some of the resolutions kind of give the assumption that some of these issues have been determined in the Métis government recognition agreement that's in the kits. And I think it's really important to just bring people's attention to that, because one, thank goodness you didn't get my presentation in the morning, or you would have been here till like 10 o'clock last night. So, but I think that this agreement is so important, and there's also a lot of misinformation about what it does or what it means. So, for example, many people, yes, there was a signing of the MGRSA, and I'm going to use that short form for it, But within the agreement itself, it says it has to be ratified through a referendum of citizens. So yes, the PCMNO may have signed it, but essentially there's a whole bunch of boxes that need to get met before. And at the end of the day, it's going to go to the populace, and in particular, it's going to go to the populace that meet the current definition of the MNO, because those are the rights holders, to determine. In that process of constitution building, we have to deal with it, and it's not the elephant in the room. We just have to deal with this issue. Everyone knows it has to deal with this issue. It sucks the oxygen out of our room every time, and we can't get on to talking about other rights because we're sucked back on how do we resolve this. So I think the resolution has merit of saying we have to crack this, right? And to a certain extent, the grandfathering, we kicked the can down the road a bit, but it is not going away. And I just want to say this, I disagree wholeheartedly with what Councillor Rivers said yesterday. We've been your legal counsel for the last 25 years. Everything we have done and why you have those budgets, why you have a harvesting agreement, why you have an MGRSA is about rights, period. It's about Métis rights, and it's about that the MNO was advanced on Métis rights. It's not a cultural group. It's not an organization that people get to join as a club or by mistake or because they have a different definition of Métis. And I just want to say that we have represented you in courts, we've represented you in negotiating agreements, and we have always represented you on the basis that behind the MNO emblem are actual rights holders, not, and I hate using the language, you know, mixed bloods, half-bloods, because people are just Métis. We don't talk about blood. They are Métis because they descend from historic Métis communities and are a part of the Métis Nation. But it is fundamentally wrong to say that the MNO got here based upon others being in the midst, because the face we've put out publicly for the last 25 years is we represent rights-bearing communities and rights holders. And that is what we have negotiated based on, and that's what we continue to negotiate based on. And if all of a sudden that does change, I can tell you, sitting across the table from those governments, and if you don't trust my word for it, watch the video of what Minister Bennett said signing the MGRSA. She said, this is because MNO represents Section 35 rights-bearing communities, and we believe that it does. So I don't think, and that's in black and white. So I just want to highlight two other things in the MGRSA. One, the MGRSA is just a self-government agreement. It is the core-based self-government agreement to recognize it. It does not limit rights in any way, shape, and form. In fact, it says at Chapter 2, and people have it in their kits, that the purpose is to advance the inherent right of self-determination and self-government of the Métis communities represented by the MNO, as recognized by Section 35, and in a manner consistent with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, through a constructive, forward-looking, and reconciliation-based agreement with the parties that is premised on rights recognition and implementation. So while Section 30, self-government may be a piece of it, it already recognizes that these additional rights, and it's not narrowing or constricting or making the assumption that that these other rights don't exist. It's about advancing self-government and then moving forward. And even the agreement itself says, for greater certainty, nothing in this agreement defines, creates, extinguishes, modifies, limits, restricts, or surrenders the inherent rights or jurisdictions of the Métis communities represented by the MNO, including but not limited to the inherent right of self-government. And I think that by virtue of negotiations and constitution development, a lot of these issues that keep coming up are going to have to be resolved, but they have to be in the hands of the communities, and they have to be in the hands of Métis citizens, not 200 in a room, but the 20,000 that the MNO does. And this is quite exciting because now we finally have the opportunity to engage in that constitution, and we have some difficult questions. Building a constitution ain't easy, believe me. It takes, in other jurisdictions, decades. You have to answer some fundamental questions, and nothing's off the table. And we shouldn't also be predetermining what that table is by narrowing or constraining what people want. The only last thing that I do want to point out is that the ratification process of the MGRSA is essentially to be developed, and the intention always has been that there will be a province-wide referendum. And that is key, because I think that the 200 people within this room are important voices, but they are not the only voices. And I think that why we finally got to a place of the Constitution building and getting to a referendum is about that, you know, to essentially allow the voices of everyone to go through. Because at some point in time, we may decide we don't want self-government, or we don't want it as it's constructed within the ultimate Constitution. But here, you're finally going to have the opportunity to do just that, and you don't want to predetermine it in some ways. Thank you.
All right, Russell, you spoke once. I won't be able to recognize you until everybody who's... Jonas,
My
sorry.
name's not Russell.
Sorry, Jonas. So I can't recognize you until everybody that has not spoken speak. All right?
You'd like to respond to the previous speaker, though.
Yeah. So we will recognize mic number 1.
Peter Rivers. Now I know why lawyers get paid by the words. So, unfortunately, I can only talk to the motion. I thought that's what the previous speaker was going to do, because I have lots to say. It's not just about shooting one moose. We were all here before that. That just really helped jumpstart everything, and thank God we have the Section 35 rights that I mentioned in the meeting with the government to make sure we secured that. So, talking to the special, or to the resolution here now, unfortunately, I don't agree with the number 1 where it says veto powers. That just reminds me of the National Council and the trouble that we have there. When somebody doesn't like it, they veto it, everything gets cut down. So again, because right now we're putting everything on shooting moose, that we're going to put everything else on the table out, we got to look at future rights and how we're going to be defined within ourselves, which the government is allowing us to do. So I don't agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mic number 2.
Yeah, Madam Chair Mishcase, I have to rise to speak against the motion. I have a lot of issues with the motion, particularly clause number 2. To me, this comes to the very heart of what it is that we've always been trying to do. Particularly in the first sentence of the second clause, where it says a mechanism be created whereby Indigenous communities, etc., etc. The MNO has never claimed to represent Indigenous communities. It has claimed to represent the Métis Nation and its rights in Ontario. We know that you walk back from that, and Métis communities are Indigenous communities, but Indigenous communities are not necessarily Métis communities. And I think that that's a really important point. I also take issue with the second section of clause number 2, where, you know, we may fight and argue and squabble in here, but when we go outside, we've always had one consistent position. We've always said the same thing. We've always fought as an organized, cohesive unit. No matter how disorganized and uncohesive we really are. My concern here is that this would create a situation where we would have 2 different sets of lawyers arguing 2 different sets of legal principles. One based on law and one based on an attempt to change law that wouldn't be supported by the United Nations Declaration or Canadian law as it stands today. And I take issue with us having to work within Canadian law, but the reality is that at this point Canadian law has, as it relates to Métis, has been shaped by us. We have gone to court, we have forced things to happen in the way that they work for us. The narrative as it relates to our First Nations relatives is the Indian Act that was developed not by them. The Pauli definition and other definitions that have been developed, you know, the Daniels case, Manitoba Métis Federation and those other things uphold what we have been saying. They don't uphold somebody else's law, they uphold our law. And so I just think that this creates a situation where we would be, the MNO would be talking out of both sides of our mouth, and we would not be advocating for the rights of the Métis Nation or rights-bearing Métis communities in Ontario, and we would be, as it clearly says, advocating for Indigenous communities, which is, that's OMA, that's the Friendship Centers, that's not the Métis Nation of Ontario. I can't support the resolution.
Thank you. Now, question has been called, so I will recognize up to Margaret. And Marlene, is there somebody behind you? Marlene, I have trouble behind you because there's a post and I don't always see what's the lineup. So, all right. So that's what I will recognize. So, and Jonas, I can't recognize you until everybody has spoken once. Mic number 1.
Tony Belcourt, Ottawa. I want to make a statement to clarify something here. We're enjoying Métis rights today, not because it was so-called Métis rights holders that fought for this at the beginning, as was suggested. It's because all Métis people who self-identified as Métis, who came forward and who were accepted by the Métis Nation, fought for Métis rights. Métis, our constitution, or rather our policies, state that all MNO citizens are Métis rights holders. What's happening to the Métis Nation? There are people whose names we honor, who have passed on, that don't meet the government's definition of being a Métis rights holder, yet we hold them in high esteem. We name awards after them. That's because we choose who is Métis, not the damn government.
All right, we will make sure that we use proper language, please.
We've gone to court on a seminal case that recognizes certain Métis rights. In fact, only one specifically, the Métis right to hunt and fish for food in Sault Ste. Marie. That's the legal decision. Of course, because of that case, the government knows that it would fail when we go forward elsewhere. So Métis rights are recognized to a degree because of that specific case. But not all Métis rights are dealt with there. We within the Métis Nation of Ontario are doing a great disservice to all citizens and to ourselves when we start separating ourselves as those that are the privileged, those who come from government-recognized communities, such as what the Government of Ontario has done. We need to recognize our communities ourselves. It's killing us in this nation to see what's going on. We need to clean up our act, and we need it through a community acceptance process. I, unfortunately, even though I agree with the sentiments of the mover and seconder of this resolution, cannot support it because of previous statements that have been made concerning, in particular, number 1. I don't believe that anyone should have veto power over decisions to be taken. We should be making decisions by consensus. That's what we set out in our statement of prime purpose Yes, we value democracy, but our higher value is developing consensus. And we haven't been doing that. We've been more and more to the clicker. We need to start working things out. And as we said when we developed the statement of prime purpose, if we cannot reach consensus on a decision that is going to be very divisive, then let's put that decision off until we can. Let's have debate and dialogue so that we will develop, and we're not going to be developing wounds that won't heal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mic number 2.
Rebecca Trudell, Historic Sault Ste. Marie. I'd just like to bring it back to what Jason said. How come 200 of us are making a decision for the whole nation when obviously a decision like this should be brought to each and every individual community? Thank you.
Thank you. Mic number 1.
Marlene Davidson, Atikokan. I won't support this resolution, but I recognize the intent of it. When I listened to Tony speak, the previous speaker from this mic, we already have division in the rights holders. Even in our homeland region 1, I can't harvest. I'm not a harvester, so already we've got a separation. There are 2 kinds of Métis there, but I'm a rights holder. So I can recognize, and I agree with Jason, that the intent of this motion, this is not going to go away, but I don't think that the rights holders should have their citizenship diluted. I think that there are rights holders, but there are other kinds of Métis in this Ontario. Right now, we're not recognized by the National Council, just some of us in that little section of Ontario that I've talked about, and we're all on suspension in Ontario because we won't allow the audit. But I'm saying that if we had the audit, let's have it roll out from there and see what that gives us, what that brings to us, because I think that then we're going to be recognized nationally, even though we might not all be the big rights holders in the citizens in this Ontario. We're going to be different. We're already different. There are different rights. We all have different rights. So I'm saying don't be afraid of that audit. Bring it forward and let us get that all settled out and then take it from there, because I'm saying that I don't want the citizenship in Ontario to be diluted. I have all kinds of friends in Ontario. I love all you Métis people. I don't care if you're rights holders or you're not rights holders. You're all part of what we do, but there's going to be a difference because there already is in the rights bearers. But I'm saying that doesn't make any difference. But we can't dilute the people, the citizenship that we already have, the rights bearers, Section 35 people.
Thank you. Mic number 2.
Good morning, everybody. Margaret Froh, President of the Métis Nation of Ontario. I'm going to agree with a lot of what some of the previous speakers have said, and start off by saying I really appreciate the thought that's gone into drafting this. And as Jason had mentioned in his comments, these are actually the very issues that we're going to have to grapple with when we get into that constitution building process. So I have the same concerns with regard to the undefined notion of this idea of Métis ancestry and what that means. But so I'm not going to add to those comments that have been previously made, but just in terms of some of the previous comments that we've had, this notion of seeing a restricted, PALI-only sort of rights framework as we go into this, you heard, and you'll see in your kits at tab 4, when you look at that self-government agreement that we signed, we actually reference Section 35, we reference PALI, and we reference also the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which really does speak to a much broader set of rights. That's all incorporated into our self-government agreement. We are not looking at this from a very narrow lens. We are looking at this from a very wide lens to really push the envelope in terms of advancing rights of Métis in Ontario. The other thing that I will say is what we are using, what we have built has come from our people. And when we talk about things like definitions, we are not working with the definition that the government has given us. We are working with our definition. We are not talking about communities and just advancing communities that the government recognizes. We're talking about our communities. And I think that's really important. So I would just reiterate the comments that have been made earlier to say that, again, these issues that this resolution attempts to address are the very issues we're going to be having deep discussions about through our constitution building process. And I would agree with previous speakers, including the youth that was just up at the mic, that these things should not be predetermined and that they really do need to go to all of our people for that deep discussion. So thank you. Merci.
Okay, for the speakers who are speaking a second time, short, concise comments, please.
Yeah.
Mic number 2.
Okay, Vita Westlake, my comment is that this is not about attacking the framework agreement or rights or trying to redefine rights. I worked for years with the Department of Justice and with negotiations of these kinds of agreements. And when Section 35 recognized Métis as an Indigenous people with Section 35 rights, what Justice was saying there, informally of course, was that that's fine, but it's an empty basket of rights. And so if Métis can assert and prove that they have rights, then they'll be recognized. That's what happened with the Pauli decision. And as Tony said, it's one right in one area, but it's a really important one because it opens the door to negotiations and policy. The other decision that is bringing the government to the table is the Daniels decision. And it's these kind of court decisions that make a difference. So in terms of protecting rights and defining rights, I think that's important. This is not about that. We are not talking about two sets of legal principles as was implied, nor are we talking about any kind of pan-Indian process. What we're saying is that recognized rights holders right now need to be protected, but we also need a policy, and it's a policy that we are asking be developed to help the people who are not yet recognized, and to also consider that the possibility in developing policy moving forward that we have a service population that may or may not be recognized rights holders.
All right.
That's it. Okay, the
Thank
other
you.
thing I would like to do
Very
is,
short, please.
Okay, I would like to request an amendment that we remove veto and put in a strong voice instead, because I take the point on veto. So for
then that's going to be a whole new conversation. So we will ask the mover if he wants to recognize that friendly amendment.
I recognize the amendment. It's friendly.
And the amendment I'll ask the seconder who actually proposed the amendment. I need special language, please.
just a strong voice will do, just so it isn't veto.
Replacing the words veto powers.
All right, can I have the motion reread with those words, please? Just the first sentence, you got to reread.
So that's on.
Point
No.
of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So just for clarification.
No, you're going to have to get to the mic.
Okay. So just for clarification, so if the motion has now been amended, does that change the question?
Well, that is what I am checking while she's reading it. And I will get back to you, so stand up. Okay.
So now part 1 would read a mechanism, non-special business resolution number 5, part 1. a mechanism be put in place to ensure that recognized right holders have strong voice powers over any decision taken with regard to negotiation or implementation affecting I'm going to start that again. 1, a mechanism be put in place to ensure that recognized right holders have strong voice over any decision taken with regard to negotiation or implementation affecting the existence, articulation, or exercise of their rights.
All right, I will ask to the floor if they want to reopen the conversation or they want to move to see if we have consensus or move to a vote. No, I will ask the floor first to see if their wish is to have a conversation or not. So I will ask, if you wish to reopen the conversation, press 1 on your clicker. If you are against opening the conversation, press 2 on the clicker. If you abstain from deciding, press 3 on the clicker. And I encourage everybody, what? Hang on for half a minute. Yes. We are waiting for 2 seconds so that he is typing it up. We can have a show of hand and go by approximately, but you know what? Everybody loves to use those clicker. So I suggest that we take, is it going to take a little while? Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute bathroom break. Okay? And please make your way to the room. Some items at the youth vendor table are now at a reduced price for a quick sale. And the veterans, Sharon's got something to say about the veterans.
Okay, and the veterans, they're pulling at 10:30 for their auction. So if you haven't bought anything or your tickets, you can go over there now. And before you leave, please stop by to see if you won.
All right. So, we were at, can we get back in the room? All right. We're going to have, we had a discussion, and the chairs have decided, and I'm saying the chairs have decided that we are voting on that one friendly amendment as we had started. It's going to be on the screen, and it is whether we want to reopen the conversation or not. So, the question is, are we going to entertain discussion on the amendment? Now, instead of asking consensus, because I know that we've already got consensus broke, so we don't have consensus, we're going to move to a vote. We will check quorum when we have the vote. With the clickers, it's done differently. So please, no yelling from the room and no talking too loud. All right? Okay. Are we going to entertain discussion on the amendment? You will press 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 to abstain. I encourage everybody to vote. Vote now. The voting is open. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And the results are all right, but we have an issue. We only had 119 response. That's not quorum. So we're going to ask, I'm going to ask for everybody to press their button number 1 for quorum, okay? So we need, and that's how we establish quorum with these clickers. It's nice. Everybody press number 1. The voting is now open. 1 and 2. It's not working yet? Okay. Do we have quorum? Press 1 to confirm quorum, please. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and sign. Voting is now closed. We have just quorum. Okay. So since we have quorum, it doesn't matter if people don't vote. We've established we have quorum. So we're going to go back to the question, are we going to reopen the conversation? And it's taking longer than... All right. Awesome. I love the clicker system. Are we going to entertain discussion on the amendment? Are we going to entertain discussion on the amendment? Then that was a friendly amendment. Do we have consensus? No, we don't. And I can see it on the screen. Consensus has been broken. So everyone voting in favor of continuing the conversation Press 1. Everyone voting against continuing the conversation, press 2 on your clicker. Everyone abstaining from the decision will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, voting is now closed, and we're not going to have further discussion on the conversation. Conversation on the motion, right, Sharon? The motion is defeated, so therefore we will go to the resolution number 5, and we will ask if we have consensus as it was. Whoa. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. There's no discussion on it. We're going to the vote with the amendment, and it was with the first amendment, and it was resolution number 5. See, I was right. Doesn't people notice that, right? My children, my grandchildren, I was right.
Point of order.
Hang on for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we are going to proceed with the vote, and we will recognize you after the vote. We will proceed with the vote. So everyone voting in favor of resolution number 5 as amended will press on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press number 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on the clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 2, 3. A cat. A sign. Voting is now closed. The results are the motion is defeated. Okay, I will recognize mic number 2 for a short comment, and then we will move to resolution number 6.
My comment was just that the resolution on the screen had not been updated with the amendment, and I would also like to just add for the record that I had a second amendment and was also not allowed to rebut any of the points that were made.
All right, thank you. It's noted. Now, non-special business resolution number 6. Resolution regarding advanced consultation in the development of future ratification process. The mover is Jonas?
Present.
And the seconder?
Vida.
Vida. We have a motion that's been moved and seconded, and it will be read.
Non-special business resolution number 6. Resolution regarding advanced consultation in the development of future ratification processes. Whereas ratification of the Métis Government Recognition and Self-Government Agreement and the Métis Nation of Ontario Constitution will impact generations of Métis to come. Whereas discussion and democratic decision-making are important for avoiding oversights and represent a core part of our cultural traditions. Be it resolved that ratification processes for the Métis Government Recognition and Self-Government Agreement and the Métis Nation of Ontario Constitution will be discussed at an annual General Assembly prior to implementation. Be it further resolved that proposed ratification processes will be designed to allow for discussion and initial votes of support at an annual General Assembly for specific areas in the drafts prior to a general ratification vote, which will include all MNO citizens.
Thank you. We have non-special business resolution number 6. It's been moved, seconded, and read, and I will recognize mic number 2. And your name is Vida?
It's Vida Westlake. The point I'd like to make is that as we move forward, self-government, what we have now is a framework agreement which provides the initial framework that will guide the self-government negotiations. As self-government negotiations take about 10 years on average, what we need to do is make sure that people are informed and have input into the process so that when it comes to the final ratification of the agreement, people are on side and that we don't lose because some points were not dealt with earlier in the process.
Question has been called. I'll recognize Jonas. You were in line? You weren't? Okay. So there's nobody else there. Question has been called. Do we have consensus? We don't have consensus. We're going to move to use our little clickers. We are going to a vote. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from the vote will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Voting is now closed. The results are... Is it 50%? A simple majority. So motion is carried. All right. We will move on to resolution, non-special business resolution number 7, and we will ask, just as a little break, hang on, we'll ask the veterans to do the draw, and then we will come to resolution number 7. Oh, okay, we'll do this quickly. This is for the photo. Okay, so we have the draw for the photo, and it is Carol Levy. Speaking of which, Carol is still looking for her bag. It's got a makeup bag in it. It's got light background with pale swirls, and it's got poppy, a whole bunch of things, especially her stress ball that she needs. So if you find it, please give it to her. So the second draw is for HBC throw. It's for an HBC throw. Oh, Shannon Caddo. But it's Sharon, actually, but she wrote Shannon. Sharon Caddo. All right, and the next and last, is it? The drum. Okay, the drum goes to, I can't read that, it's upside down, got to pull another one. Ah, Marcel Lafrance. Yay. Marcel, are you in the, Mars, are you in the room? You're here, I can't see you, but that's good. It's yours. And the veterans, thank you for all your support. Okay, you got to do, okay, 30 seconds from the youth. They got to do something that apparently can't wait.
Just very quickly, I want to draw the, I want to introduce someone to this assembly. Dolores, can you stand up real quick? Dolores Pinder is one of our elders here in Sault Ste. Marie, and we know that there are so many stories about the Métis Nation and our communities being chased away and being chased off those places that matter to us. And Dolores is one of the keepers of those stories because her family's home and the homes of other Métis families in Agua Bay were burned down in 1967. And Dolores has continued that work. She fights every day to tell that story. And I think that we, as an assembly, should recognize and just give a shout out to her for that work, continuing to fight for justice for this community. Thanks, everyone. I just thought that was really important. Thank you.
Okay. Listen, the non-special business resolution 7 is where we're at. But I will take this time to make sure that everybody in this room, everybody outside, everybody at this AGA feels safe and respected. I'm here more than one horror story of what's going on the outside. And I will tell you that these issues will be investigated because we will not have anybody come to our AGA to be bullied or to be whatever, spoken in a bad way to. So we will, and I rest assured, I feel deeply sad. We are not like that. We will investigate and get back. Thank you, and I apologize from the... Okay, we're going to get back to resolution number 7, and it will be, and we're going to ask for not too loud of conversation, please, because I need to have the attention of the room. Resolution directing additions to Schedule A of the Métis Government Recognition and Self-Government Agreement. Do I have the mover in the room?
Present.
And the seconder?
Vita Westlake.
All right, I have a motion that's been moved and seconded. I will have the motion read.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I can make an amendment prior to reading, it will save
Sure.
time. So, I originally combined these various topics in order to be efficient and not use up too much of the Assembly's time. However, upon reflection and discussion, I've realized that access to things like extended drug coverage and disability support
So what's your amendment?
is of such overwhelming importance to the well-being of our communities and of the most vulnerable in our communities. It would be unwise to combine that with any other considerations in going to a vote. Therefore, I move an amendment to remove points 2 and 3 and the last 2 whereases from this resolution. I don't want to sacrifice these topics, but I made a promise to someone, and it is very important to address such a critical area in the self-government negotiations.
All right, we will get the mover and listen very well as it is read to make sure that your amendment is there. The mover is okay with the amendment obviously, and the seconder also. All right.
Okay, so this is non-special business resolution number 7 as amended, and it's to amend to remove the last 2 whereas clauses and 2 and 3. So I'll read it aloud. So resolution directing additions to Schedule A of the Métis Government Recognition and Self-Government Agreement. Whereas self-government provides mechanisms to address specific problems as needed in many different areas. Whereas the health needs of Métis are under-addressed, especially in rural and remote settings. Skip the next one, skip the next one. Be it resolved that the Métis Nation of Ontario seek the formal discussion of the following areas, in addition to the areas already listed in Schedule A of the Métis Government Recognition and Self-Government Agreement. 1. Next slide. health insurance broadly and specifically whether Métis will continue to receive health insurance through OHIP, FNIB, post-annuals, or a Métis-administered plan, and the extent of such coverage to additional areas, e.g. drug plan, pharmaceutical access, mental health services, disability supports, and the extent as to whether such supplemental coverage will be covered by the Métis or another government. Skip 2 and 3. That's it.
All right, the motion has been read, and the motion has been moved, seconded, and read, and Jason, our lawyer, will be coming up to speak to it.
So can I just ask for a point of clarification? In the Schedule A currently, it does say health issues. Can we, instead of saying, in addition to saying that with where it says health issues, it means this, right? It includes this? Because I think the idea that we're saying, we worded it very broadly, so as long as, but I think it's very helpful to say, no, when we're talking about health issues, this is on the table. So would you agree to a friendly amendment, not of saying, as opposed to saying in addition to, but that when, that these issues are included in the health discussions under the MGRSA, because it's already in there.
Yes, that would be an acceptable amendment.
And the seconder? Yes. Both the mover and the seconder agree to that amendment. Do I have further discussion? Question has been called, and I don't see anybody else at the mic. So do we have consensus? Do we have consensus? If you're going to break consensus, we're going to go to a vote. I'm going to have to learn to speak a little quicker. All right. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1, 2, and 3. 4, and 5. Voting is now closed. The results are: the motion is carried. Okay. We are now going to go to motion non-special business resolution number 8.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the mover would like to withdraw this resolution.
And the chair, okay, so we are withdrawing that resolution. So we will move to resolution number 9. Resolution number 9 regarding the right to legal recourse. The mover, Jonas, you're in the room.
Present.
The seconder, Vida, you're there also. And we will get that motion read.
Non-special business resolution number 8. Resolution regarding the consideration of non-divisible interests in negotiations. Whereas section...
Wrong one.
Sorry, withdrawn. Thank you. I was asleep there. No. So 9. Thank you. 8 was withdrawn. Non-special business resolution number 9. Resolution regarding the right to legal recourse. Whereas section 29.05 of the Métis Government Recognition and Self-Government Agreement states, the parties will not challenge or support a challenge to the validity of any provision of this agreement or the legislative measures giving effect to this agreement. And whereas the legislative measures operationalizing an agreement are not the same as the agreement itself, and as legislative measures will be drafted by the Crown and passed by only one of the parties, i.e., the federal government, which is outside of Métis control. And whereas it has been necessary to get court clarification in the past to demonstrate the failure of the Crown to meet its obligations on several occasions. For instance, the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement Act in 2015 and the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement. Next slide. And whereas the legislative measures operationalizing an agreement are not the same as the agreement itself.
Yeah, that's what we have. Okay, keep going. Well, that's what we have. Yeah, keep going, keep going.
That's correct? Okay.
I think the third paragraph is where you would have been resuming.
And whereas the legislative
I see. It's a repetitive one again. Okay, so I'll just, can I explain that, what I did wrong? Okay, so I'm just going to explain on the first slide, the three whereases. I copied the second two again. So whereas one is section 29.05 of the Métis, and whereas legislative measures is the next one, and whereas it has been necessary is the third one. Now on this slide, go down to the third paragraph and we pick up. And whereas such a clause unnecessarily undermines the attempt to build a positive relationship through evoking an image of past attempts to remove legal recourse from Indigenous peoples, notably the 1927 amendment to the Indian Act preventing fundraising to hire lawyers on behalf of Indigenous people, and the 1921 Bill 138 Lougheed Amendment to the Criminal Code preventing legal challenges to script fraud. And whereas Section 29.05 represents an unprecedented burden to force citizens to fundraise outside of the MNO in order to seek court clarification respecting the legality or implementation of a clause. Next slide. And whereas it creates an implied necessity for the MNO to take the government's side against its own citizens and has the potential to unnecessarily undermine the political unity of the MNO. And whereas this is an unreasonable constraint which could unintentionally undermine the agreement through constituting an appearance of sharp dealing, therefore be it resolved that the Métis Nation of Ontario finds that it has insufficient support among its citizens for Section 29.05. Be it further resolved that the Métis Nation of Ontario seek a bilateral amendment to the agreement removing Section 2905. Be it further resolved that the leadership of the Métis Nation of Ontario is instructed to make it clear to the Crown that a failure to amend this clause, 29.05, will almost certainly risk leading to the citizens of the Métis Nation of Ontario failing to ratify the final agreement.
All right, we have non-special business resolution number 9 that's been moved and seconded and has been read, and our lawyer will come up and speak to it, and then I will recognize mic number 2 after. Okay.
So, again, this resolution is based on some false premises. I want to take everyone to, if you go to the Métis government's recognition agreement that's in the in tab 4, on page 8, section 4 is the relevant section. So let me explain to you how these self-government agreements is operationalized within Canada and how we view this being operationalized. There is Métis jurisdiction, there is Canada's jurisdiction, and there is the provincial jurisdiction. Now, to be quite frank, provinces and feds sometimes think they own the space and that there is no Indigenous jurisdiction there, and that is from the Indian Act. They just assumed, well, we ignore your governance structures, we ignore your laws, we'll pass our own laws and impose it on you. That's not going on here. And so these ideas that somehow this legislation is going to be brought in without our support is actually not explicitly contradicted in the agreement. If you read section, so the other reason of why we've asked for legislation to be brought in order to operationalize or be the umbrella that oversees the agreement, is we've learned from the past that governments come and go, and if you just have an agreement, they can rip it up. If they've just made a decision based on policy, they can rip it up. And that's one of the reasons why we fought to have Indigenous rights protected in the Constitution, because then they're not dependent on political whim. our strategy in these negotiations, and as you well know, Métis Nation of Alberta and Métis Nation of Saskatchewan advanced the same purpose, was we don't want to be beholden to Darth Vader Part 2 coming to Ottawa again and saying, self-government of those Métis people, I'm ripping these agreements up and I don't have to implement them. So what we got within this agreement is a piece of legislation, because one of the things that Métis struggle within government is, yes, there are policies for Inuit, there are policies for First Nations, but there's nothing for us. And I'm not saying those policies that they have for those other groups are. And so by virtue of creating a legislative base, if Canada does not fulfill its obligations under this agreement, and you'll notice within it, there's positive obligations to negotiate. You'll also notice in it, it doesn't take away any rights, cede any claims, but that if they start dragging their feet, we can rely on the honor of the Crown, which the agreement says clearly applies to it, and the duty to negotiate to say, no, we have leverage there. We want the legislation. And the other key point in it, if you go to 4.02, it says, the minister shall consult the MNO during the drafting of the federal recognition legislation. And more importantly, 4.03 says, prior to recommending the federal recognition legislation to Parliament, the minister shall ensure the MNO is supportive of the proposed legislation. That's not the hallmarks of the Indian Act or the Lougheed Amendment stopping Métis script. This is a clause that expressly says we're going to be a part of developing it, and also we have to be supportive of it prior to them bringing it in. So it's not they get to go do their own thing and then impose on us. It is a collaborative process. So some of the points in that resolution are fundamentally incorrect, and the whole point of why we want legislation is that it can't be torn up in a nickel, on a dime. I mean, you see, I'm even cheaper than a nickel. But it can't be torn up by when the next government comes in, that we have a legislative base to rely on, that we can hold them to account on. And it's not they get to go in a dark room and develop it themselves. They made the commitment that we had to be supportive of it before it's drafted and implemented. And I think that the legislative piece is key, because it's much harder for evil Uncle Skippy or some new government to come in and overturn legislation than it is for them to just rip up an agreement or rip up a policy. And so I think that should be clear to everyone of that's what that is about. And the whole point of this as well is this resolution makes a bunch of presuppositions from about what people's positions on these issues are going to be. And I think that that's a bit presumptuous, and I think it's also not what is required at this point in time. The legislation doesn't take effect, if you actually read the agreement itself, until a series of things are met. One, a constitution is developed and ratified by the MNO's populace. Two, the agreement itself is ratified through that same referendum. So this is a bit of a misunderstanding about what's going on and how the agreement is structured. And of course, if ultimately the MNO, through this process, ratifies the MGRSA, we're going to have to defend it in court and not take contrary positions to it. But that doesn't actually take place until you have a fully ratified constitution and self-government agreement through the referendum process. So I think that this would really displace and stall what we've negotiated, and also the importance that we've put, not because we want them to, hey, pass Indian Act-like legislation on us. We essentially have been fighting for, no, we want legislation because, in the Cunningham case, which is, the Supreme Court of Canada talked about Métis living in this legal lacuna. Now, I had to look at what lacuna meant because I'm from Fort Frances and didn't quite understand what that fancy alliteration meant. But it means a gap. There's a legislative gap or a legal gap, and whether for better or for worse, There isn't one for First Nations because of the Indian Act, and also there isn't one for the Inuit anymore because they do have modern-day land claims agreements that have been given the force of law. So I think that this resolution is very problematic and essentially stops us from advancing, our positions on these things, and it also is not quite based on the fact that we're not going to have any say in the legislation. Express provisions in the act, in the agreement itself, say that we have to be supportive of the legislation before it's brought in. And I will say, it hasn't been drafted yet, but we want this, so when the next government comes in October, we have the hammer to say, you've got to move forward on legislation with us in collaboration. Thanks.
All right, mic number 2.
With respect, I feel like Jason Madden is not addressing the real issue here. This resolution is not opposed to legislative protections or legislation being passed. This resolution is not opposed to constitutional protections. This resolution is saying that a specific clause, section 29.05, which would limit our ability to take the government to court if they made a mistake or failed in some way, intentionally or unintentionally, to implement the agreement. And an important feature of a really important mechanism for a lot of treaties and comprehensive claims and self-government agreements has been going to the courts and getting the third opinion of the courts in order to clarify what the agreements are about. And often both parties do that. But here, we are having our right to go to court be prevented. And so it's just about this one clause. And yeah. And
okay, we're going to entertain Jason because we're having another problem with the interpretation, and then we're going to go to Vida, and then I think I heard question. I'm not sure. So
yeah. So let's go to 2905 and actually read what 2904 and read what it says. It says the parties will not challenge or support a challenge to the validity of any provision of this agreement or the legislative measures giving effect to this agreement. So we won't challenge the validity of it, but we will challenge if they breach it. If the government there is nothing in this provision that would stop the MNO or a group outside, although I don't necessarily know how they would get standing because of privity of contract, but to say that Canada has breached this agreement, therefore we're suing you. That's not what this clause meant. This clause means that if someone else challenges it and let's just be clear, why we put this clause in this, and I do want to highlight, some people, facts are important. They're citing the James Bay Agreement. People are citing the NTI Agreement. This exact clause is in those agreements. Because the whole point of what NTI had to go to court on, or the Cree of Northern Quebec had to go to court on, is because Canada wasn't upholding the agreement. It wasn't about the validity of the agreement in and of itself. And what we were concerned about, and why we actually want this, is we know the Red Squirrel Métis are out there. We know the Métis Federation of Canada are out there. We know all of these other groups are out there. And they're going to say, well, you can't negotiate with the MNO because we represent Métis. And so what we've essentially said is, look, if we're going to, if others are going to attack the validity of the agreement itself, of saying, no, you shouldn't even negotiate this with the MNO as opposed to the Red Squirrel Métis, then we're going to both defend the agreement in that way. So this clause is in those other circumstances, and it does not prevent in any way, shape, or form, if Canada's not upholding its end of the bargain under the agreement, us from suing them. I am a lawyer. I know what the difference between not challenge the validity versus challenging the implementation of the agreement. Thank you.
Mic number 2.
Okay. With regard to this resolution, I've heard people saying that the framework agreement's a done deal. It can't be discussed or opened up at all, and that we have to worry about being conscious that there are politics here, and we don't want to be vulnerable to the political whims of whatever new government come in. First of all, the government and the machinery of government in negotiating these agreements is in place, and what's brought us to the table are the courses like Powley and Daniels. I've worked for years with negotiators, and if we're told that we can't adjust the framework agreement with the agreement of both parties, then that's bad advice. And what we're looking for here is, as we go into negotiations of the self-government agreement, and I've already said that the self-government agreements take about 10 years. This is the framework agreement. We're just at the beginning. It's a general template or roadmap telling us how we will proceed. And for me, I think it's important that our negotiators have available legal tools like the ability to refer a question to the courts if there is some disagreement or uncertainty during the process ahead of us. And I'm just see no reason why we wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, I will my number one mic's gone, so I guess that was it, but I will ask Jason to come up and do a few corrections, or Margaret come up and do a few corrections, and then we will proceed with asking if we have consensus.
So just to respond to that last point, in terms of the agreement and the way it's been drafted, I just have to say we actually have a negotiations committee. We've got a whole team of people that worked very hard to ensure that this was the best language possible. In terms of this issue of amendment and the ability for us to actually amend this agreement, it is built, again, right into the agreement. So I'd refer you again to Chapter 4, that self-government agreement. It's on page 36, and if you look at Articles 31.01 and 31.02 in particular, it talks about the ability for us to amend this from time to time with the written consent of both our government as well as Canada. So all of this has already been built into the self-government agreement itself, and I think that the comments made by our legal counsel, who has a great deal of experience interpreting this, I think those are very strong. We don't ever want to be in a position where, where we see Canada trying to back out of, or another group trying to challenge the validity of our self-government agreement. This is a protection, not a risk. Merci.
Okay, do we have consensus on non-special business resolution number 9? We don't. Consensus has been broken, so we will go to a vote. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Voting is now closed. The results are 32. Motion is defeated. All right, we're going to go to non-special business resolution number 10. Resolution number 10, resolution regarding Bill C-262. Jonas, you're in the room?
Present.
Vida, you're in the room?
Yep.
All right, we have a motion that's been moved and seconded, and it will be read. And while she's coming up here, remember to look for the lost bag, Aspire, blue Aspire bag. Please.
Non-special business resolution number 10, resolution regarding Bill C-262, whereas the President of the Métis National Council has, without our consultation or approval, has taken a position against the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples through publicly refusing to support Bill C-262. Therefore, be it resolved that the Métis Nation of Ontario take the position that the national interest of Canada, as determined by the political party of the day, does not override the need for free, prior, and informed consent of Métis and other Indigenous peoples, as affirmed in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Further, be it resolved that the provisional government of the Métis Nation of Ontario be instructed to censure the leadership of the Métis National Council for both publicly opposing Bill C-262 and for doing so without democratic consultation of the Métis people.
All right. Non-special business resolution number 10 was moved, seconded, and read, and I will recognize mic number 2.
Hi, it's Vita Westlake. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People is an important achievement for Indigenous people around the world, and it was an important milestone for us when Canada signed the declaration. Bill C-262 is... Pardon?
Just go ahead.
Okay. Bill C-262 is the legislation that was developed to align Canadian laws with the UN Declaration, and it has been getting solid support as it moves through the House and Senate. Unfortunately, the President of the Métis National Council unilaterally decided to not support the bill. This decision was made without any consultation and without the approval of the Métis people, including the Métis people of Ontario, and I think it would be good if we gave voice together to say that this is not a good thing.
Thank you. Question has been called. I will recognize mic number 2 up until Mitch. I think, Mitch, there's nobody behind you, right? No? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this sends a good message to everyone involved about what our priorities are. And by passing this at the Annual General Assembly, we give a stronger voice to our leaders by standing behind them when they deliver this message.
Mic number 2.
Mitch Case, I generally support this resolution. I think that it seems that decision was made by one person and one person alone, and you know, even within the flawed structure that is the Métis National Council, even within that flawed structure, there is still a structure that should have been followed, and so. President Chartier's public comments that essentially said he didn't care whether it passed or not, and that he had decided not to support it. I think it seems that decision was made by one person and one person alone. We could get into a discussion interpreting the MNC bylaws and what his authorities are, but I think that decision should have at least been made at the Board of Governors level. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have consensus on non-special business resolution number 10? Do we have, no we don't, we broke quorum. So we're going to go to a vote. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Voting is now closed. The results are: motion is carried. All right. Oops. We are going to non-special business resolution number 11, which reads, Resolution regarding MNO recording and using the official version of O Canada. Is the mover in the room?
Yes.
Diane?
Diane
And the
Kilby.
seconder in the room?
Colleen Burnell, second.
Colleen. We have a motion that's been moved and seconded and will be read into the minutes. And there we go.
Non-special business resolution number 11, whereas respect for women is fundamental to Métis culture, whereas the official words of our national anthem, O Canada, were changed from all our sons to all of us to acknowledge and include women, gender neutral, in February 2018, whereas the version of O Canada used at the 2019 AGA of the MNO was not the official version of the national anthem, and whereas the version of O Canada used at the 2019 AGA of the MNO did not honor our women citizens, therefore be it resolved that the MNO record and use the official version of O Canada with its gender-neutral lyrics at all AGA and other meetings going forward.
All right, I know I heard question already being called. Motion, non-special business resolution number 11 was moved, seconded, and read, and I will recognize mic number 2 up until, if there's nobody behind Mitch.
Just the two of us.
Okay.
The resolution, Diane Kilby, Grand River. The resolution is straightforward, speaks for itself. I know that we respect all of our sons and all of our daughters. That's what the language of the official version of O Canada does. And all this is asking is that we use the official version of O Canada from now on going forward.
Thank you, Mitch. Mic number 2.
Mitch Case, I speak in favor of the resolution, but I do have a question for the mover and the seconder. I take a little bit of a question with the second clause that says that it is our national anthem. It is in fact Canada's national anthem, and we can have a bigger and greater discussion at some point about how we as a nation are going to relate with the settler colonial state that established itself on our land. But I wonder if we could change that friendly amendment to change that to the Canadian national anthem rather than our national anthem.
The mover? The seconder? All right, so we have made that friendly amendment.
The other just minor question I have is the intent of the therefore be it resolved that we start playing it at all of our meetings, because we generally only play it at the General Assembly, which I don't know if the intent is that we start playing it all the time, or...
The intent is that wherever we play it, we play the official version of Canada's national anthem. It does not state that we play it at every meeting going forward. It's just that wherever we do play it, like the AGA, we use the actual official version.
Cool.
All right. So do we, the question has been called. Do we have consensus? Do we have consensus? No, we don't, so we're going to go to a vote. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Voting is now closed. Results are: motion is carried. And I want to apologize for that. I want to apologize for that. It was an oversight, and it won't happen again. All right. So we are doing special business. We're doing good, actually. I don't know what time it is. That's why we're doing good. Non-special business resolution number 12. And I think I just heard the chair from the resolution committee say it's the last one. Resolution to support Métis elders. Can I have the mover, Lynn Gallagher, are you in the room? Yes.
Lynn Gallagher's at the mic, and I just want to put a friendly change for the last part before we go ahead and read the very last, if that's possible. And
can I have a seconder, and then I'll get back to you.
Over here.
Seconder is Michelle. Okay, do it, and then we'll read it.
I just want to add at the last paragraph, the therefore paragraph, and ask that the AGA report back at 2020 AGA. Or that the MNO report back at the 2020 AGA. And the therefore as the last sentence.
Okay, we're going to ask for the minute taker to come up and read the non-special business resolution number 12. And I'm sure the mover agrees with that amendment and the seconder also?
Yes.
I got to go through process. Process is very important.
Non-special business resolution number 12, ordinary resolution to support Métis elders. Whereas it is important that our own Métis elders, senior citizens, are recognized and honored as central contribution. Whoops, hold on. Okay. Would you like to? Non-special business resolution number 12, ordinary resolution to support Métis elders. Whereas it is important that our Métis elders, senior citizens, are recognized and honored as central contributors to the Métis Nation of Ontario, MNO, and whereas we, the Métis, have and continue to cherish and uphold our Métis elders, and whereas our Métis elders have given their lifeblood for future Métis generations, and whereas the MNO has provided much needed support and help to some specific groups of members, such as the Youth for Education and Advocates for the Veterans, therefore be it resolved that the MNO be directed to study the current needs, support, and situation for our Métis elder citizens, senior citizens, and the informal family Métis caregivers of these Métis elders, and to report back at the next AGA, was that it? And to report back at the 2020 MNO AGA.
All right, we have a motion. Non-special business resolution number 12 has been moved and seconded as amended, and it has been read. Question has been called, but I had 2 people at the mic. 4 people at the mic. You have what? And we have portable mic. So we will recognize, because I will recognize the people who are there already, up to Shelley. Is that you back there? Shelley and Renee, you're the last one, and the floor mic. Okay? So I will recognize mic number 1.
Can I talk to the resolution to give a bit of background information? If that's possible?
Mic number 1 is you, and we are going to keep our comments on the topic of the resolution, so go ahead.
I just want to give a bit of background information why I raised this resolution to bring to the Assembly today. I do research on our aging seniors in general in New Brunswick, and I know that there's a large cohort moving forward, and I think it's happening within the Métis Nation as well, our Métis elders. So I just want to bring that fact. And there's a lot of there's no support for elders in general in Canada. And I believe it's across the country, but very specifically in the Maritimes, it's lacking. There's no advocacy, there's no support for the elders, and there's no support for what we call the informal caregivers, which is often the family that is trying to care for these people. And this is what I'm asking for in this resolution, to look at and study, to look at and see what are the programming that is available to our MNO seniors and to the caregivers, the informal caregivers, to help advocate for them. We don't know where to turn. They don't know where to turn. We want these people to live in dignity. We want these people to live at home in dignity, and we need to support them. I know that there are some, and it is minimal programming out there, and this is why I would like the Assembly to ask that we study this and redirect our efforts to put more into helping our seniors as well, and our informal caregivers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll recognize the floor, Mike.
Art Bennett, North Channel Métis Council. I stand to speak in favor of this motion. It should have been done a long time ago. Just look around the room and see how many elders are here. And I've done some advocating myself for the elders, even though I am an elder. But you know, guaranteed income supplements. The government doesn't really tell a lot of the people about that. And I've done paperwork for them to get that. Also, having their homes reassessed after they're assessed and at a ridiculous amount of money, and getting the assessment knocked down so they're paying less taxes. We need, like the mover said, advocacy for these people. And I just wanted to add a note. This young lady that Mitch introduced, we talked, I found out she's a cousin. Yeah.
You know, Art, I'm not surprised. We're all related. All right, Mike number 2.
Yes, I just want to, Verna Porter Brunel, Senator. I just want to say that I agree with this motion. If we're going to compare ourselves to other Aboriginal groups, the First Nation and Inuit look after their elders. That's the first priority for them. I've also been asked by many people, elders, is there a home that we can go to that's Métis specific? And different things like that, where we'd be honored as the elders when we go into a hospital. They want to be recognized as an elder with the backup, the way they were brought up. So housing for elders where they can have their traditional foods and stuff, I think we need to recognize that. And like Art says, there's a lot of elders in our room, and we are an elder group. I know our youth are coming up, but we do hold a large portion of the population. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike number 1.
Randy Gravel, BC MNO. I am really in favor of this motion. I would just like to say that myself personally, I do a lot of work with dementia people. And when I say that a lot of times people don't, if somebody in the family ends up with dementia, and sometimes the wife doesn't drive, they have to go get groceries, they have to do things. If we can make ourselves available to help them, just to go out and get groceries with them, just to spend time with them, to let them know that we care, to give them that support. And also in the old age homes, we go in the old age homes, and we make up these signs with big letters on them, with songs on them, and we sing them. And you'd be surprised how many people who have dementia that wait for us. And when we get there, they're waiting for us to get there so that we can have a really good time with them. So yes, I'm in full support of this motion. And I think there's not enough being done for people that can't help themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I only have 2 speakers left, and that would be Mitch and Shelley. Marlene, I'm sorry, that question had been called before you came up. Mitch.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Mitch Case, just on behalf of the MNO AGA, we fully and wholeheartedly support this resolution, knowing the impact that the supportive programs that MNO provides for young people has that impact on our lives. We know that those sorts of supports for our elders is crucial to the health of our communities and to the preservation of our way of life. And so, I think about, after my grandma passed away, the MNO staff reached out to my grandpa and got him to go to that Tuesday thing they do here. And that's where he met Virginia. So, we know, our family knows the benefit of these supports and the things that the MNO provides, and to be able to grow and expand and enhance those things is just incredibly important to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Number 2.
Shelley Claus, Veterans Council. I support the resolution. I'm just seeking clarification on what qualifies as a Métis elder and a senior, because the government is at one age
I would think the Métis Nation of Ontario wouldn't discriminate against anybody that's an elder that doesn't look like an elder. So I just wanted to see clarification on if there is an age bracket that we're looking at, because some of us still look 29.
Okay, Shelley, the only thing I can answer, and I will be corrected if I'm not right, is in order to be elected as a senator, you need to be 55.
So this is speaking to Métis elders.
I will
senators,
ask.
So
I
I'm
will
just seeking
ask
clarification.
I will ask.
I would hope, this is Lynn Goliker from Sudbury Council, I would ask that also be explored as well as one of the parts of the therefore.
Sorry, do you want to give your name again?
Lynn Goliker, I was the mover.
You were the mover?
Yes.
Okay. And can you clarify that, please?
Yes, I would ask that also be called in the therefore and to direct it to be studied as well, to be determined as part of that study, to seek a little bit of clarification on that point at that time.
Can we agree that we're going to do it without doing a friendly amendment? Okay? We can agree to that? All right, Shelley?
I agree.
I'll let you know if you're old or not. Okay?
Thank you.
Do we have consensus? And I apologize to everybody who thinks they're old. You're not really old, because I'm not old yet. We don't have consensus, so we're going to go to a vote. All right. Everyone voting in favor of the resolution will press 1 on their clicker. Everyone voting against the resolution will press 2 on their clicker. Everyone abstaining from voting will press 3 on their clicker. I encourage everybody to vote. Voting is now open. Vote now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Voting is now closed. Results are: motion is carried. I'm not old, but I will take advantage of any store that says you get a discount at a certain age. And I have no qualms about doing that. Our president is going to come up, and she's got a few words to say after this, and then we're almost done, I think. We've got 2 more quick reports after that, closing remarks. Then we'll close and open another AGA for the MNOCC. And I want to thank the Resolutions Committee, and I also want to thank the chair of the Resolutions Committee. They did a great job. Thank you very much. All right.
Madam Chair,
Ooh.
just a point of order.
What?
It's just been brought to my attention that the live feed that happened yesterday has been cut from 8 hours and 40 minutes down to 3 hours and something minutes. When you go to try and play it, it starts at resolution 21 for some reason.
Okay, we'll check that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Margaret? Madam President, sorry. Oh, you're going to do it at the end? All right. So now? Okay. No, I said thank you to the Resolutions Committee. All right. I'm looking at my script to see where we're at. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. I would invite the youth that were working, the blue-shirted youth, to come up on stage, please. Yes, we are giving them a standing ovation for all their hard work. Good work, nice work. Thank you so very much for doing what you did. We appreciate your help, your work, your smiles, and I'm sure sometimes it wasn't always easy, but you always smiled at me, so that's okay. No, we do appreciate your work and all the dedication that you have for us. And, you know, summer youth program is something that we have to encourage our youth to attend. Unfortunately, it's a short program because our summers are short here, so. But it's worth it, right? Is it? There you go. All right, thank you very much. Yeah. All right, we have two presentations, and I will ask if Métis Infinity Investment is here. Joel Henley, Manager of Industry and Community Relations. Are you here, Joel? Okay, Joel will come up, and I know he said he was doing a short presentation, and it is on the Métis Investments update. And then we will have a short presentation on Métis Voyager Development Fund. So, Joel, do you want to come here? No, no, this mic's better.
Nope. Oh, I'm just waiting for my computer load. Is that a... Am I get a shot? Is that 10 times down?
Yes. How long do you want?
I'm just going to need 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Can I have a 10-minute, if possible, on there? And is it going to project on the screen, your thing?
Yes.
No? Yes? Do you have it?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right. You have it.
We have it. We just want to get... Sorry for the delay here, folks. Thank you for the opportunity to give an update on the Métis Infinity Investments. Louder? Okay. Just wait for my slide to load so I can go from there. Oh, it's down there.
Yeah,
There,
right there.
perfect. Didn't need this.
Nope.
Okay, next slide, please.
He's
There we
going
go.
to speak louder.
Okay, today we're going to talk about Métis Infinity Investments, where we've been and where we're going, our partnerships, how we measure success, and focus on the future. Next. Okay, the prosperity and self-sufficiency law created by the Métis Infinity Investments, that's how we became in existence. We're an arm's length corporation to pursue business and economic opportunities for the Métis Nation of Ontario. With the prime purpose to develop prosperity and economic self-sufficiency for Métis citizens and the Nation of Ontario as a whole. Next. Okay, the approach to our approach is based on the Harvard project on American Indian.
Can you speak out louder?
On American Indian and economic development. Studies have showed that when the Economic Development Corporation was on its own, stand aside, it had a 90% more chance of success than other models. So good governance and credibility is needed to attract the right investment and ensure future success. We have a strong focus on Métis entrepreneurship and building capacity of Métis citizens. Next. Our vision is to be a preeminent Métis Economic Development Corporation in Canada. MII, Métis Infinity Investments, will build on economic prosperity within the Métis Nation and bridge the gap between industry, government, Métis communities, and its citizens. We'll be profitable and ensure adequate reinvestment capital for long-term growth. Here's just a timeline of where we started and where we are today. For a second so you can see that there. I'm not going to go through all those points. Okay. For the first 3 years, much of our work was focused on two themes, development and management. See the bullet points there. We'll go through them all. Okay. Our 2018-2020 strategy plan provides the foundation for growth and continued profitability. The 4 areas: fostering partnerships, building capacity, enhancing competitiveness, and getting results. We'll endeavor to increase communications to shareholders and Métis citizens through enhanced messaging and new communication tools. We are excited to share the realization of success with Métis citizens. We'll continue to move forward with implementing the Métis Infinity Investment Strategic Plan and guiding our strategic economic activities. In the next year, we'll be partnering with the Métis Nation Ontario and others to seek out, mentor, and train motivated Métis citizens to fill a substantial need in skilled trades. Our focus will be on delivering results, includes the realization of continued growth through new business acquisitions, investments, joint ventures, and partnerships. This includes larger multi-million-dollar contracting opportunities for existing MII companies. Right now, Red Lake Plumbing and Heating, that is now 100% wholly owned by Métis Infinity Investments. They have a huge market share up in the Red Lake area, and we're expanding it throughout Ontario. We have a partnership with NPLH Drilling. They are doing a lot of work with us down in the Sudbury area, and we're pushing north with that company as well. Okay. Infinity Equipment Rentals, it was established in 2016, and it is 100% Métis Infinity Investment owned. We have a very healthy growth rate. We're continually doing business on that at an accelerated level. Iron Range Bus Lines, we have a joint venture with them to address ground transportation needs for our several mines. ASAP Secured, we have a contract with them, a partnership to provide security at Detour Gold. Next. Red Rock Camps, Métis Nation Ontario. We have an ongoing partnership with Red Rock Camps. They do camp installation, they run camps, catering businesses. So Proco, we have a strong relationship with Proco. The contracts we look at there are in the $20 to $30 million range. The other 3, I'm not too sure of. That's out of my area of expertise. This list is not exhaustive. We have several more partners that for some reason didn't get on the list, but our partnership list is growing every day. Just at this AGA here, I was approached by 5 other companies to talk, so it's looking really good for the Métis Nation Ontario. Any proceeds or profits that we make are go directly to the MNO, which are split between the MNO and the communities where the project takes within the region. The project takes place, so it's we're coming along really well. Next slide. Profitability and beyond. Okay, as it says there, since 2015, we've been profitable every year. I don't see that changing. However, for Métis businesses and Métis Infinity Investment, success means more than just profit. Profit sharing, I just spoke on there, the payment of dividends to the Métis communities. Direct employment, we have up in the Timmins area for Detour Gold, we brought on approximately 40 citizens there for same with New Gold in Kenora, around the Kenora region. Every contract we sign, we always have it's a non-binding, but there's always a provision to hire Métis citizens for whatever positions we can. Supporting Métis businesses, especially we've been very successful of late of bringing on Métis businesses in our contracts we get. So we're including them in almost every facet of our scope. and diversify our investments and partnerships. Again, like our recent acquisition of Red Lake Plumbing and Heating. They're one of the biggest suppliers up in the area, and like I said, we're branching south. So that's all. In closing, I'd like to extend an invitation to all regional community councils. If you realize an opportunity in your area, let me know. We'll explore the opportunity. If it's viable, we'll run with it. We'll get a partner to secure the contract. If we're successful, well, the communities in the region will benefit from it. So just reach out and give me a call. That's it. Okay, thank you.
Oh, my squeak's back. Thank you very much, Joel, for that. I would like to invite, where are you? Art, I don't know if you want to do it from the table, if you want to come up, Métis Voyageur Development Fund. And the lunch bags will be next door at noon. Gold is regular and white is special diet. And the Drummond Island bus, please. What's happening with that? You gave me the paper. Ernie, do you need to talk about, or Mitch? Okay. The Historic Sault Ste. Marie Council, I just don't lose everything, just most things. With the support of the Métis Nation of Ontario, is arranging a bus tour in Drummond Island on Monday, August 26, 2019. So the bus tour is tomorrow. Following the AGA 2019, the tour will include a visit to Drummond Island Museum and the remains of Fort Drummond. This will be the first organized return to Drummond Island since the forced relocation of the Métis in 1828. For many of us, this will be an emotional experience, returning to a place of such importance for us as people. That was done, and the artwork, you can't see the artwork, but the artwork was done by Dylan Miner. All right, and it departs Sault Ste. Marie at 8 o'clock, and it arrives back in Sault Ste. Marie at 5 o'clock, and we will recognize Art. And Stephen is also here. We are going to have an in tandem presentation. I thought I'd seen you, but you weren't on my paper, so I wasn't sure.
Madam Chair.
So I apologize for that, Stephen. So they're doing it in tandem, and it's Métis Voyageur Development Fund.
Madam
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this
Can I recognize Mike too first, please? Yes.
You didn't say where they'd be picking us up. Is it here at the hotel, or where are we meeting?
Well, I didn't say it because it's not written down.
Well,
so it's here. It is here.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Verna. All right.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everybody. It's kind of exciting to be here and present what we have, because we have good news to present. But I'll tell you what MVDF is. It's a Métis financial institution. I guess it's up on the screen so you can read along, but it was formed in January 2012. We started financing in August 2012 in the capital and support provided by Ontario and now Canada. Current agreements we have for $36.85 million over 10 years. The sole shareholder is you, the Métis Nation of Ontario. Our operational independence from shareholder through choice of directors, location, policy, etc. We have a 5-person professional board, a lawyer, a banker, an accountant, an insurance broker, brokerage owner, and me, an entrepreneur. Provides debt and contribution financing to Métis owned and controlled businesses in Ontario.
Thanks. So I'll talk a little bit about how our financing, how we approach finance. I'll talk a little bit about how we approach financing. Okay. Sure. Thank you. We approach finance a little bit differently than a bank does. A bank tends to have a lot of information on you. It sees your operating account, your net worth statements, your business banking account. Its information as a small Métis institution we don't have access to. So the big difference in how we do finance, rather than extending small business credit based on your personal circumstances, we actually look at the business idea that you're bringing to us, and we try and understand it, and that's the basis that we make our financing decision on. So it's not metrically based, it's based on the people, it's based on thinking about the idea. We finance at a higher debt to equity ratio. Essentially, you've got to have less money to get into the business than if you go to a bank. So a bank will probably lend you $1 to $2 for every dollar that you put in. So if you've got 50,000, you could borrow up to 100,000. We'll go up in cases to 9 to 1. So if you got 50,000, we'd lend 450,000. Now you can do a bigger project. The idea is that Métis don't always have that equity, so we're going to be very aggressive in lending so that you can start a bigger business and people can get on that process quicker. We say that we charge commercial rates, but we provide a contribution that alters the cost of financing. So the effective cost of financing from MVDF tends to be between 0 and 2%, which is a lot less than you'd be paying if you go to a bank. We do take collateral, but we'll subordinate it so you can get an operating line for the bank or other support. All of this has a cost when you take that higher risk and lower yields. So we have to be rather careful in how we make the decisions. But so far we have been. And as our capital base, as we've been able to grow it, that means we can lend more money to Métis citizens. In Southern Ontario, we can lend up to $2 million per business. In Northern Ontario, it's 1.325, and we hope to be able to increase that to the same limit as in Southern Ontario. So overall, what we're trying to do is let Métis entrepreneurs start or expand a business with less equity, to grow it larger, to pay lower rates, and to attract further commercial capital to grow their business. So it's trying to do all those things through the features of our financing. And Arts will talk a little bit about how we've managed, what results we've achieved.
Yeah. Well, this is some of the good news I was talking about when I first opened up. Yeah, this mic is. Okay, in 2018-19, we had $6.4 million in financing to Métis entrepreneurs. This exceeds capital received from Ontario and Canada at $4.4 million, and is an increase of $500,000 from last year, so we're growing. And since startup in October 2012, $31.8 million in financing has been provided to Métis businesses. Our 10-year agreement with Ontario required us to approve $10 million by 2021. A further $1.25 million in non-repayable support contributions has been provided for total support of $33.1 million. We target our investments to attract further commercial financing. This allowed clients to leverage a further $25.2 million, taking the total financing secured for Métis entrepreneurs to $58.2 million.
So that's the overview of the results we've got. And where we are currently is the loan portfolio is sort of the money we have out that is currently active. Right now it's $19.9 million. And I was saying to Art we should have done another $100,000 just to hit $20 million. But we don't force deals. We sort of let deals come to us. But if we'd had another $100,000, it would have been 20. And it's more than doubled since 2015. So we started in 2012, we've more than doubled since 2015. It's growing rapidly. Despite it growing rapidly, it's in good shape. So our clients, we have very few arrears. It's less than 2%. That's about the same as the commercial banks would have. Even though we're taking higher risk on higher debt to equity ratios and charging less money, we still have the same results. To give you a comparison, a developmental lender run by the government in the north has an arrears rate of about 20%, and we're less than 2%. And our specific allowance is what we set aside for what we think may go bad. in the portfolio, and we've set that at 1.8%, and the other Aboriginal financial institutions across the country, they average about 6.7. So that's not necessarily our work, it's just we're working with a lot of very good Métis entrepreneurs who are repaying us as agreed to, and they're making a real difference in their community. So in addition to becoming the largest Aboriginal financial institution in Ontario, we are substantially the largest of the Métis capital corporations. There's a Métis capital corporation in each state. We're conservative on the job numbers we claim, because we don't want to get, somebody check and they're not there. But on a conservative basis, the companies we've worked with have created 138 jobs over the 6 years. And operationally, we generated a surplus. So we took more money in revenue than we did in expenses, of $514,000 last year. What that means is that when further money comes in from Ontario or Canada, we don't use any of that for operations. Every penny that comes in gets lent to Métis entrepreneurs. As far as what we're doing in the future, or things that are happening right now, there was a $50 million announced in new capital for the 5 Métis capital corporations in budget 2019. MVDF and one of our clients, RockTech of Sudbury, were the only capital corporation of business mentioned in the entire budget document. And we're working with the MNO to determine the split of that $50 million that will come to Ontario. You probably know there's a traditional split that the MNC applies, or an equal split, and we're working on that now. Additionally, we're still getting money from the Métis Economic Development Strategy from Canada. That's $940 this year, $940 next year. Ontario, just on Thursday, committed to providing a further $1.7 million over the next 3 years. And we worked with two First Nations AFIs to secure $10 million from the Regional Development Agency in Southern Ontario, and that's what allowed us to raise our lending limits. Additionally, the joint venture is going to be delivering in Southern Ontario the Aboriginal Business Canada grants. We never had a role in this before. It was delivered by the First Nations alone to Métis. And there's two problems with that. One, Métis institutions should be delivering programming to Métis citizens. And two, where they don't, where the First Nations did, we found the results were not close to what you'd expect on an equitable basis. We're working with ISA to become the first Aboriginal financial institution registered under the Canada Small Business Loans Act, which would let us insure our loans. We're working on renewing the $3 million a year that we get from Ontario. And if you add all that up together, this year in new capital, we're expecting between 7 and 9 million, depending on what happens with Canada. So the fund will grow to somewhere just above 50 million. And that 50 million is going to be used to lend to Métis entrepreneurs. That's the only thing that we do. And luckily, demand from Métis entrepreneurs is really strong. The government questioned whether there would be the need for a $50 million fund for Métis entrepreneurs. And we can confidently say we've more business than we know what to do with. And we have more demand than we have resources coming in. And hopefully, we've managed to steward that well, and we think the results have been fairly good. And the last thing, France asked me to mention who I am, in case you're wondering why I'm up here talking about this. So my name's Stephen Morrison. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Métis Voyageurs Development Fund. Bennett is our Vice Chair. And we also have some of our staff here, Caroline Bertrand, who's our Director of Portfolio and Administration, and Monique Richard, who you may have known in a previous life, who is now our Administrator. So thank you very much.
I'd like to further add, too, that a couple of years ago, there was an audit done on all AFIs, that's Aboriginal Financial Institutes. MVDF came in #1 in the country. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I want to thank you for that presentation, and I see that there's somebody at mic 2.
I just want to say, great job. The only thing you've done that I don't support is that you stole Monique.
All right. So I thank you very much for that presentation, and keep up the good work, especially if it's bringing us money. Or not. But not just us. Our people are working, and that's very important. Our people are going to be self-sufficient. That's even more important. All right. I'm looking for my script, but as far as I know, this brings us to the end of this AGA, and I will ask our president to come and say closing remarks. And I know Sharon's back there, and she's saying, yeah, she lost it again. Yes, I did. All right, Madam President.
I want to say thanks to Joel and to Art and to Stephen for those quick updates. And as you can see, our business arm is growing, it's getting stronger, and our Métis Capital Corporation, our Métis financial institution, MVDF, has been, as Art was just explaining, has been recognized as #1 among all Indigenous, First Nations, Inuit, Métis financial institutions in Canada. And I think that speaks a lot about the fact that when we do things here, we do them really, really well. So I want to say congratulations again to Infinity Investments and to MVDF for the success that they're showing. That's going to help build and support our entrepreneurs and our communities. So thank you. Merci. So what an incredible annual General Assembly. I was warned by Roger that I had to keep this under 3 minutes, so you can thank him for that. I will keep my remarks short, but I want to say thank you to all of our regional councils, our community councils, our advisory councils. All of our leadership are here. My colleagues from PCMNO, those young people that worked so hard at the door, the youth that held the youth conference for 2 days leading up and have played such a vital role in our assembly and continue to do that. I want to say thanks to all of our staff, those summer youth staff, our organizers, all of those that helped to make this AGA so successful. I want to say thanks to all of our partners, and I want to say that the guests that we had from across the Métis Nation, we had Audrey Potra, president of the MNA, we had 2 cabinet ministers from the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, Ryan, or Sunny and Cher, Ryan and Sherry, as well as Melanie Omeniho, president of the Le Femme Chifo Tepemswak, and all of them commented to me. They were all on that early flight this morning, but they all commented to me last night how incredibly warm and welcoming we were, our citizens were, and how at home they felt. And they thanked us for showing some amazing hospitality. So thank you to all of you for making our relatives feel so welcome. And that's really what it's all about. It's about family. And whether our roots are from the West, or they're from historic communities right here in Ontario, including this incredible community of historic Sault Ste. Marie, we are family. And we have, as we have consistently done over the last 26 years, come together this weekend to make some really important decisions to advance the MNO and to keep us moving forward. And that's what we are always focused on, that notion of progress, not perfection. We are going to be strategic. We're going to get things done for our people. And we've celebrated some truly incredible achievements over the last year. And yes, without a doubt, the MNO as a Métis government can always do better to serve our citizens, to deliver programs that do make a real difference in the lives of our families and communities. We're always striving to do more and to do better. And as we've seen throughout this weekend, how precious debate and democracy can be, it's absolutely to be celebrated. It's fundamental to our government. And I actually had comments back from some of our sponsors that attended yesterday, and they said it was remarkable what they saw in terms of that democratic process and action and what we were able to achieve over the course of the day. We respect and value the strong and spirited voices that have been welcomed at this AGA and in all of our conversations. And I want to say, though, what we cannot allow are the attacks. We cannot allow the bullying, the disrespect that have been shown by some, by a very loud but small minority. And let's be really clear, that is not okay. That kind of behavior cannot live within the Métis Nation of Ontario. And while I've seen some really beautiful interactions over the course of the last 2 days, and so much love and so much support and so much joy and energy and celebration, I've also seen some behavior and hurt of behavior, especially when it's targeted at our young people and it's targeted at our senators. And I say that is not okay. That cannot live within the Métis Nation of Ontario. And that's going to be up to all of us to ensure that we expect and that we demand better, always, of ourselves and of each other. That is not who we are as a Métis people. We were reminded by our Veterans Council President, Brian Black, at the very beginning of this assembly about the importance of peace, love, and joy, and how those principles should guide us. And I'm really glad to see Jonas here today with us to hear that, those words echoed back, because that's true. And if you look at our statement of prime purpose, those are our values as Métis. Those are our principles, and we have to keep to those. We are a people that honor our ancestors and our elders like Dolores Pinder, who we met today. All of our veterans, our senators, our women leaders, our youth, all of our leadership, all of our citizens, we value all that they have given and that they continue to give to community. Those contributions that are made by so many, those are the things that make us strong, and they will continue to make us all stronger. Last evening, we had a chance to celebrate the achievements of the last 26 years, and we came together as family and friends to recognize the contributions of past President Gary Lipinski. And it was a really warm and memorable evening. It was a wonderful celebration. And in his comments, Gary talked about his incredible 20-some years serving in a leadership position within the MNO. And he offered some really sage words about the importance of finding the good, always trying to find the good, seeking the positive, and leaving behind the negativity. And I think those are great. I think that's great advice for everybody, something that I try to do each and every day of my life as I live my life. We celebrated the signing of our self-government agreement last night, and I'm really happy to say that we're continuing to move forward to sign those regional implementation agreements, and this is how we envision moving forward to implement that push of self-government. So we're going to make sure that we can, through those regional agreements, that we can work with your leadership to ensure that we're best able to access every single citizen in every region across the province, because your voice is so critical as we figure this out, as we figure these big questions out, and as we move forward in that process of building our Constitution. Today we cheered the ongoing contributions of this year's Volunteer of the Year Award, Mitch Case. I will say that in this community in particular, we really do reflect on that fight, our fight for rights, our collective fight for justice, for all that have fought for this fight, for rights, for recognition and respect of Métis in Ontario, as we have always done. While some have said and made claims that the MNO is divided, I think what we see here this weekend is that we are not. The MNO is strong. The MNO is united, and it always has been. We're united under those principles of the Statement of Prime Purpose. Fundamentally, we are family, and we are going to continue to make our way forward for the betterment of our people, for our citizens, and for our communities. So I want to say thank you so much to all of you. I want in particular to thank our chair and our vice chair for keeping us on track. I think they've done an incredible job to get all of this work done, and I want to applaud them. And with that, I will say to each and every single one of you, it was so wonderful to see you. I wish we all had more time to visit. I wish you all safe journeys home. I hope that your family and friends find you well when you get there. And I look forward to the next time that we can come together and do what we do as Métis people, which is get it done. So thank you. Merci.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam President.
I've been reminded we have two gifts, and I was absolutely remiss in not acknowledging our regional councillor, Ernie Gatien, for the work that he's done, and those two councils, the Historic Sault Ste. Marie Council and the North Channel Métis Council, for hosting us. And we've got a gift for the presidents of those two councils, and so I would ask Kim and Yvonne, if they are here or their alternates, to come up, and we have gifts for them. Well, that's good. It's so nice. Thank you so much. It's a ton of work to put these AGAs on, and I'm really happy to say I just thanked Stephen. I said it was a lot of work, I know, and he said it was fun. And then the only other piece of business that I want to do today, I completely forgot yesterday, was Bucky Gravel's 80th birthday. Yeah. But I think he might not be here. So for those of you that know Bucky, wish him a happy birthday from all of us. Safe travels home. Thank you so much. And we're going to now be moving into the business meeting of our MNO Cultural Commission after we go through the closing prayer. So I just want to pass that on. Thank you. Merci.
Yes, and before we invite Senator Senator Joseph, while he's making his way up, we are going to thank our sponsors, and we will applaud for the platinum sponsor, Nuclear Waste Management. And also we have our gold sponsors, Baker Tilly Ottawa LLP, Hydro One, No History. And I always like to get to the silver sponsors, and that's Arnico Eagle Mines Limited, Detour Gold Corporation, Enbridge Inc., Greenstone Gold Mine, Mayor Norris Penny, Newmount Gold Corporation, Métis Nation of Ontario, Abitibi-Témiscamingue Region 3, and the TD Canada Trust. So, and before closing prayer, I want to acknowledge and thank Rain Coast Ventures for their wonderful work and their work when they do on the fly also. And I also wanted to thank the AV guys and the IT guys. And I want to thank all our staff that are here. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without the support of our staff. So thank you. So I want to remind people that after the closing prayer, because this is the closing of our Métis Nation of Ontario AGA, we will have closing prayer, and then we will open, as usual, the MNO Cultural Commission Corporation Annual General Assembly to receive the auditor's report and appoint the auditor. So on that note, I would ask Senator Joseph Potras to say closing prayer.
Thank you. Please join me. Creator, thank you. You have blessed us with solid citizens and good senior leadership. Guide us in our quest to build a solid foundation on which our nation can grow. Our goal is to keep balance in the wants and needs of our citizens and the needs of our nation. Nourish us from the well of courage. Fill us with courage that doesn't run out and integrity that knows no bounds. Support us with the wisdom and strength to move far beyond just being pleased with recognition of who we are. Underscore our hopes as we look into the future that will always be the best that we can be. Reason to thank you are never lacking. You have blessed our nation with good far exceeding our expectations. You know what we need before we ask. We know that it might be a blessing that we're not all growing in the same manner and on the same time schedule. But you know that we are growing in your grace, Creator. Thank you for our blessings, our citizens who really miss our AGA, who make the good that is done by our nation worthwhile. Bless those who went to the mics to share their wisdom and knowledge with us. Bless our hosts, the citizens of Region 4. Bless our staff who contribute much to the well-being of our citizens and our nation on a daily basis. Bless those among us in senior elected positions and in senior staff positions who are always where their skills and talents are most needed. Bless us all just for being Métis. Bless those among us who are Métis by marriage. And now, Creator, we adjourn our annual citizens meeting and go our separate ways. Until next time, keep us in your sight and out of harm's way. May the biting winds of life's coldest seasons blow gently on your home, and bless all who enter there with long life and good health. Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Creator. Amen.
All right, that was a really, really beautiful prayer. Now, I wish everybody safe travels back to your seats. If not, I wish everybody safe travels home. We are going to open the MNO Cultural Commission Corporation Annual General Assembly. So I am asking that if you're saying goodbye to everybody, let's do it quietly because we need to have this AGA. All right, everybody heard that? We're doing it quietly. So I invite our finance officer and our director of finances and our secretary treasurer to come up and say, give the auditor's report. Can I have the exit quiet, please? Please? I can hear, and we're not going to hear what they have to say. So I apologize for maybe people thinking I'm rude. But I'm saying bye to everybody quietly. Everybody's saying bye back, and we're going to do that in the hallway. Thank you. Tim.
Check. Yes. Got your attention, didn't I? Okay. We're going to now do the presentation, and I'm going to let our Director of Finance, Mary Jessup, take this forward. Thank you.
The draft financial statements were in your kits. They're the smaller package. The reason these are draft statements as opposed to the ones you saw for the Secretariat is that while the executive of the Charitable Commission were able to approve the statements, we no longer have quorum for on the directors. We have vacancies. Now, last year there was very little activity in Cultural Commission. The year before, we were successful in receiving a $100,000 grant for Michif language, which the Secretariat acted as an agent for the Cultural Commission, prepared materials, got them distributed in the schools, and that little $17,000 owed back to the Secretariat is for that work that they did on the Cultural Commission behalf. Because that was successful, we are looking to reinvigorate the Cultural Commission. And we are working with the lawyers to ascertain exactly how do we appoint new directors and how do the members of the Cultural Commission approve activity. So I would like, if there are any questions, could I have them now?
All right, Mike 1. No questions. I just will make the motion. Joanne Young, Clearwater Métis Council, and I would like to move that the financial statements for the Métis Nation of Ontario Cultural Commission for the year ended March 31st, 2019 be approved as circulated.
I have a seconder. Sorry, I almost yelled. Mic number 2.
Verna Porter Brunel, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion that's been moved and seconded, and the motion will be restated.
So this is that the financial statements for the Métis Nation of Ontario Cultural Commission for the year ended March 31st, 2019 be accepted as presented.
Do we have discussion on the motion? Question has been called. Do we have consensus? Anybody abstaining or objecting? We have consensus. Anybody abstaining or objecting? I don't see anything or any hands up. Any consensus? Anybody abstaining or objecting? Carried by consensus. Thank you very much. This closes the assembly? Oh, no, we have to approve. Mic number 1.
Auditors. Joanne Young, Clearwater Métis Council. I would like to make the motion that the accounting firm of Baker Tilly be appointed as the auditors for the year ended March 31st, 2020.
We have a motion that's been moved. Mic 2.
Cecile Wager, Senator, Oshawa Region Métis Council. I second the motion.
We have a motion that's been moved and seconded, and it will be restated. I'd just like to see you walk up. I'm helping you with your steps. That's all.
So this one is that the accounting firm, thank you, that the accounting firm of Baker Tilly LLP, Ottawa LLP, be appointed as the MNO AGA auditors for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2020.
We have a motion that's been moved, seconded, and read. Do I hear question being called? Question has been called. Do we have consensus? Anybody abstaining or objecting? Do we have consensus? Anybody abstaining or objecting? Do we have consensus? Anybody abstaining or objecting? Carried by consensus. This brings us to the close of the MNO Cultural Commission Corporation Annual General Assembly, and I would like to thank the people who stayed to be able to participate in that. Thank you very much. Safe travel homes. Thank you very much, Mary and Tim. This is it. This is the last time this AGA that I will be doing. All right. Bye. Safe travels.